In the White House, President Eisenhower signs the proclamation that makes Alaska's entry into the Union official, nearly 92 years after Lincoln's Secretary of State bought the territory from the Russian Tsar for $7 million.
The Alaska Wild Project podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Barney Sports Chalet, supplying hunters with the best hand-selected gear since 1963. The exclusive home of frontier gear built for the rugged Alaskan terrain. Your one-stop shop for all your outdoor needs. Visit Barney's today at 906 West Northern Lights.
Big Rays, the Alaskan outfitter, committed to outfitting Alaskans across the state since 1947. Whether you're a recreator, parent, guide, or corporate buyer, Big Rays has the gear you need, tailored for Alaska's harsh conditions. Check out their new exclusive line of Auralic waders. Big Rays for all your outdoor gear and rugged work attire. BigRays.com.
Tailored Restoration 24-hour emergency home services, helping Alaskans restore their dreams since 1972. Services include fire, water, mold, post-emergency cleaning, repair, and remodeling. Give them a call in Anchorage, Eagle River, Matsu, or Fairbanks. Hit them up at tailoredrestorationalaska.com.
Total Truck and Alaska Overlander, Alaska's premier supplier for custom automotive accessories and overlanding products, providing all-inclusive rental vehicles and trailers custom outfitted to explore the Alaskan backcountry with a unique and convenient traveling experience.
TheTreehouseAK.com, located at 341 Boniface Parkway, Alaska's own and grown cannabis and CBD store. Ask the bud tender what the strain of the day is to get your 10% off. The Treehouse, where the culture lives. AKO Farms, located in Sitka, Alaska, built from the ground up with concentrates as their single motivation, with exclusive products such as their sugar wax, full spectrum diamond sauce cards, and more. Ask your local bud tender about AKO. Marijuana has intoxicating effects and may be habit-forming and addictive. Marijuana impairs concentration, coordination, and judgment. Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence. There are health risks associated with consumption of marijuana. For the use of only by adults 21 and older. Keep out of the reach of children, and marijuana should not be used by women who are pregnant or breastfeeding.
Lawn Pro AK, Alaska's year-round professional property maintenance team. Services include weekly lawn care, custom landscaping, fertilizing, weed control, turf repair, and more. Schedule your free estimate at lawnproak.com.
Alaska's OG cider company, Double Shovel, crafting gluten-free colonial-style ciders founded as a healthier, non-inflammatory brew option. Drop by their Pop and Tap room in Anchorage off of 58th and Arctic or visit the second location in Kodiak. Double Shovel, award-winning ciders.
Alaska Mining and Diving Supply, located in Anchorage, is our go-to for powder sleds and utility rigs. Whether you're in the mountains with the flat bill bros, running trap lines, or hauling freight, they have the selection to get you dialed from peaks to the valleys. Find them on Commercial Drive or akmining.com.
He couldn't hear anything.
He was saying that you look like a coach.
Yeah, you're a coach.
I coach a lot.
You got a coach vibe to you.
Totally.
I played baseball in college, but I coached gymnastics, wrestling, and basketball, gymnastics, and wrestling.
You didn't coach baseball?
No, football and baseball affected hunting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
First question.
Very smart.
First question.
Very smart.
Can you dunk?
No, I could grab the rim with my fingers, but I've had both knees replaced, and I wanted to hold off until they had springs so I could dunk. But
that's coming out in 2027.
The only problem is when you get up there, you got to come down. So
yeah,
that's
right.
true. The coming down is usually the
they
worst.
They put the cushion on your heel too, so when you come down.
Yeah.
You got springs and impact pads or something?
Right.
Man, that'd be cool.
So Lew is one of the incredible people that I've mentioned to all of you guys probably in the last couple of weeks that had a double knee replacement at the same time.
Wow.
And as listeners know, I just had mine done 6 weeks ago, and I cannot begin to imagine both at the same time. For the amount of help I needed and the amount of pain that I was in, I mean, I don't see how you double that.
Well, guys, when I was in college, they never told us that you could wear your body parts out. And I wanted to be a PE teacher and a coach. And so when I first started coaching and teaching, I exercised with every class every day. And so I could run a sheep down almost. And the only problem is I learned not too far down the road that, you go home and you die when you do that all day long. And then, so I just started running with my teams and stuff like that, and wrestling and different things. So it keeps you in good shape. But I could do over 50 pull-ups at one time when I was doing gymnastics, and I wore my shoulders out. So in 62 and 64, I had my shoulders replaced, and then I got back up to where I could do over 30 pull-ups. But about 2 years ago, I realized that I'm starting to wear the titanium out, so I backed off on the pull-ups. And so I want it to last at least till I'm through sheep hunting. And so
that's why I got mine,
sure
so I can go sheep hunting again.
And the knees, I think the rehab is really important, and you got to push through the pain. I mean, there's going to be pain.
Oh yeah.
And the swelling. Of course, the first week or so, you have to get those machines and they keep you working and the icing and all that. But then after that, every day you got to get up and keep going because you got to get that stuff that starts setting in there. What do you call that?
Scar tissue?
Scar tissue, yeah. Thank you. If you don't break that loose, that stuff will set up. I've seen people that it didn't do them any good to have knee replacement because they stiffen up.
Right.
And so
They weren't active enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So once you break that loose and keep it going, it probably takes 3 months before you feeling, you don't feel so much pain. But 6 months is really good. After a year, you just
Full send.
I was walking 5 miles in 2 weeks, but you just have to, And
You were walking on those knees.
Oh yeah,
For
5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you not to do that. No, they told me not to do that.
Well,
that's weird. It worked out though.
Yeah,
whatever you did.
It's the outlier. Outlier.
The outlier.
I was gonna say,
there you
I take
go.
Lew for a guy who kind of says, "Don't tell me I can't do something."
Yeah, I'm just gonna go for it.
Yeah. Don't kill any
That's
big
good.
sheep, man.
I'm old school.
Yeah.
So his knee replacements probably weren't what you did though. Would they have been a different procedure?
No, it's probably the same.
I had a striker is what they put in mine.
Same.
They actually
Same.
This guy here was the only one that stayed at the time that did it 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And they line
So
you up
very
and they
recent.
put a screw in the bottom 2 years
Okay.
and line your thing up so the guy's sitting back there robotically doing it.
Yep.
And so you get the exact angle and everything because they saw that bone off.
Okay, yeah.
And then
You
they
had the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually,
Two at the same
yeah.
time.
But he told
Two
me
years.
just to go ahead and work hard on it. He said, I don't know how long it'll last. If it lasts 20 years, I'm 78 now. I'll be 98.
That'll
then.
be a win.
Yeah. I'm curious how does it feel with the titanium in the shoulder going out? Is it a different sensation?
Well, sometimes I'll start to reach up for something and it'll catch, and that was what I was doing before. Yeah, I don't have the pain. Before I got to so bad that my arm would fall out of joint, and I never noticed it doing that. But they asked me if I had dislocations before. Well, I never had a dislocation at all. It just wore out. So the ball, instead of being round, it had gone down to flat, and that stuff that had worn down had formed a stalactite down on the bottom of it. And so it was painful. I'd have to put my arm up on to do lat pulls. Couldn't do pull-ups anymore, and so I'd put it up there and grab a hold, and I'd pull down 150 pounds or 20 pounds or something like that. 120 pounds for about 25 times, and it hurt doing it, but it always felt better afterwards. And so when I went for the surgery, the guy said, "Well, the fact that you've kept the muscle pretty good, kept working out." It was beneficial because otherwise, if you let that go, it just atrophies.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
So anyway, it took 3 months. I couldn't do anything because he had to take one of the rotator cuff heads off. So put about a 4-inch deal in here like this, laid it open, and he cut the ball off the top. And then he drove a titanium stud in there, and it worked out really good.
Yeah.
In 6 months, I was able to go sheep hunting, and after I got back from sheep hunting, I jumped up and did 20 pull-ups, and so it was. I was afraid to do them before that because I was afraid I might tear something up.
Yeah.
But, after a year, usually on knees, or I've had 2 back surgeries, I wore out L2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, and 5S1.
Oh
man.
my goodness.
So they're all fused, but
Just fully compressed them with all those pack outs or what?
Oh yeah, but my grandson is 22 years.
You can.
Yeah, you can pull.
You can pull-
pull
oh, you're
it
gonna
out.
show us
Grandson's
something.
22 years old, and I can go down and put my knuckles on the floor, and he can just barely go about half between his knees and his ankles.
Yeah.
So I've always
There you
worked on flexibility,
Yeah.
stretching and stuff. And to me, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So two knees, 2 shoulders, 2 back.
Yeah.
What else?
That's it. I don't want to.
That's plenty.
I was a little bit concerned because when you're not really doing a lot to begin with, and if you wore your knees out and your shoulders out, you think, well, how's my hips? You know,
Right.
Because I know a lot of guys that are having hip surgery, and playing basketball and stuff is hard on your hips.
Yep.
So they were doing this, all these X-rays anyway, and so I said, okay, how are my hips? And the guy looked at it and he said, well, you know, you can see in there's still cartilage and stuff in there, so I don't think you're going to have any hip problems. So I was
Nice.
glad about that.
Yes.
Well, I would think with the heavy backpacks for so long and they sit on your hip, I wondered about that.
Well, see, if you have a lot of the weight, I think you need a lot of it down. You don't want it on your shoulders, compressing down on your back. And of course, the hips would be carrying.
Majority of the weight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I wonder if it makes it stronger, though,
Well, you know, I think
versus
that,
wearing it out.
I think that a lot of it has to do. You need to stay in shape year round. You know, I exercise. I got a weight machine and all the different things that I do downstairs. I lift weights one day, I run the stairs the next, and then I take a day. Well, I take a day off, but I walk 5 miles, and then I start over.
Wow.
Where do you run stairs at?
At our house.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You got a little stair machine.
Well, I do have a stair machine, but I don't like it. I prefer running the stairs, so I designed the stairs when we added on to the house. Most people downsize, but I'm a collector of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I made it so that I can run the stairs. And
It's an escalator.
no,
Only on the way down.
De-escalator.
yeah, I can run in 30 minutes. I can run, to the top and back 100 times. So it gets a pretty good sweat.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
bet.
And when I lift
going?
weights,
You still do that now?
I don't try to lift really heavy. For instance, I'll bench 100 pounds 30 times, and I got a circuit that I go through, so I don't take any break in between, so make it more aerobic.
Yep.
And so I got 10 exercises I go through 4 times, and so I'll do instead of pull-ups, I just do 120 pounds on a lat pull. I go forward grip first time, second time reverse grip, and just keep that and do it 30 times. So it's lifting a lot of weight, but it's over, not. You need to train, but don't strain. If you're really straining, you can. At my age, I'm not trying to build muscle. I'm just trying to keep the belly off.
Yeah.
And
I like that. Train, don't strain.
Oh, yeah.
and keep the old ticker going.
How old are you?
Right.
I'm 78.
78. You look amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
You got
thanks.
muscle
Yeah,
density
you
still.
look fit, dude.
Yeah.
I'm getting this sagging skin, which you can't do anything about. I don't like it, but I'm not trying to get a girlfriend, so it doesn't matter.
Lou, I don't think the sheep will mind either. I think
No.
it'll be okay.
Well, it's deceiving. They look at me and they say, "He can't get up here."
4 minutes later.
Run you down.
Welcome to Alaska Wild Project, episode 152. Today we have Lew Bradley, the author of Rampages, and a really good-looking man. Tell you that right now. You're doing great.
Yeah, he looks like he
thanks.
could bench 250, no problem.
No, well, I leave that for the young guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still get out and hike a bunch?
Strain.
I do. I like to get out and look for horns. I carve. I started carving when I
Oh, okay.
retired. So I look for sheep horns. Most I ever did was 31 days. I covered about 240 miles of glacier. I lost from 187 pounds down to 160.
Oh, man.
I come out of there and I was cut. Boy, I had these little hard muscles, but I wasn't as strong as I probably lift as much weight at one time. But I had endurance up the
I bet.
kazoo.
Yeah. That got me wondering, because you've been doing it. When was the first sheep hunt? What year?
69. Whenever they landed on the moon, I was up sheep hunting. And
Tell me what you packed for food-wise then compared to what you do now.
okay, well, that first one was, it's always a learning experience. And I was in the military at the time, and all these guys were younger than me, and most of them, and some of them thought they were, college graduates thought they were pretty smart, but I could whip most of them. Anyway, they used to give me gas, and because I was buying a spotting scope and different things, and of course I couldn't afford that good of stuff. And my first backpack was from Gary King's, and it was a Camp Trails, and with that canvas thing, no belt. It had
fully framed.
Yeah,
big heavy thing.
No frame on the bottom there for a shelf or anything like that.
No belt, just the shoulders.
Just the shoulders, and you're having to put everything on the outside because you can't get everything inside, on that pack. So anyway, but when you're young and dumb and strong, it doesn't really make any difference. I guess you don't know what.
Of course, what your limit is, or
Well, back then the state of the art would actually been probably in the '60s was those Kelty packs, and they were more expensive, and I probably still could have gotten one, but I didn't. And so I went with that, and I got one. Next year I had a belt, and that was a little bit of improvement. I put a radiator clamps and put a little shelf on the bottom.
Well, all right.
And first year I had Army poncho and a Army sleeping bag with chicken feathers in it. And
Chicken feathers?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I call them. It certainly wasn't down. I burned a hole in it. I got it all soaking wet and had to try to dry it out, and it caught fire and
clumped up and
burned a hole in it and stuff. I use Visqueen a lot. Visqueen's a cheap man's, poor man's tent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
waterproof.
Yeah.
Well, and then in the food. The food, yeah.
They had some stuff they had to cook for like 20 minutes. Some stuff back then.
Like MREs type things?
No,
or?
I didn't use the MREs. I didn't like those very well.
Yeah.
I don't know, some kind of go to the store and get some of these packages, and you could boil them up for like 20 minutes and get some, nothing like the freeze drieds today. And a lot of people complain about the freeze drieds, but I like Mountain House freeze drieds. They're pretty darn good.
They're way better than they were 20 years ago, too.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, and you've probably seen the full maturation process of
some people
backpacking food, right?
take candy bars, and I took some candy bars and different things. But if you're working hard and really covering a lot of ground, you're going to burn. You're going to probably lose a pound a day, and
easily, yeah.
And so I didn't take you can't take adequate food unless you have a plane and can go back to it or something like that. So you just plan on.
Candy bars, nuts,
starving a little
and just
bit.
snacks and being hungry.
Yeah, Gorp and stuff like that.
Gorp.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I liked what do you call those candy bars? Snickers.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
That's the number one.
Oh yeah.
number
they
one
got
hype.
that
Meal in
peanut butter
itself.
one.
That's right.
So good.
And then when you kill a sheep, you just eat the meat.
That's
There
right.
you go.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Tell us about your days in the military, in the Army.
Well, I like I said, I want to get some good training, so I ended up going through airborne training and then back to Special Forces. And those guys aren't killers like you think of today. And, I'm sure that the SEALs and stuff like that today have some great training. I would never made a SEAL because I don't swim very good. I'm
More a mountain guy.
I'm like a
Yeah,
rock.
you seem
fish.
kind of dense. Yeah, you might sink a little.
Well, in college, the worst class I ever took was swimming class, and the instructor was a college swim class coach, and we had to swim for 30 minutes to get a C, and a guy cheated for me. I think I had 27 laps or something like that in 30 minutes, and the guy put me down for 30, so I got a C out of the class, but. And it was brutal. And you had to
30 laps. That's a lot.
You had to sit out there and skull, and try to skull like that, and it's supposed to float on your back. You had to arch back like that, and my legs would just go like this here, and just start going down like that, and I'm heading to the bottom.
Just the anchor.
None of that arms above water, tread water thing.
So I was actually pretty lucky because when I got up here, we actually had the weekends off.
And what year was that, Lou?
67.
67, okay.
67 through 70.
All right.
And so we'd take off and drive up north or cleared out on the peninsula. And
you were
fishing.
stationed?
I was Fort Rich.
Fort Rich, okay.
Yeah, I was in the Army.
Okay, U.S. Army, Fort Rich in 1967.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what got you up here?
It is. Like I said, I probably would have been in Vietnam. They cut orders on me. The guy's name was Sgt Major Booze. You'll never forget that. And
for sure.
The guy that worked with him was Sergeant Dupas. And so, I'm not making that up. And so they cut orders and sent me to up here, and otherwise I probably would have went to Vietnam. Everybody went to Vietnam in the orders except for me, and I think and one other guy came to Alaska, and 2 guys went to Korea, and then everybody else went to Vietnam.
Why weren't you guys chosen?
Well, I got orders cut on me. Like I said, those guys told me, said, "Son, you don't really want to go to Vietnam. It's not a good place to be." You know, and
You got lucky.
I did. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I spent 3 years up here, and that's where I got into the sheep hunting. I just it's one of the things. I grew up deer hunting with my dad and elk hunting in Oregon, so I was elated to be able to come up here. And you know, people don't realize, but in 1968, I was taking on weekends and going out scouting and looking for sheep, and in Eagle River, unbelievable. I didn't really count numbers, stuff like that, but in 1970, that would be the year I was getting ready to get out. My wife, she was pregnant, and she lost our first child, so she decided to stay up here and hunt with me, because the guy who was supposed to decided he wasn't going to stick around. He went back to New York. So we packed up and went up Eagle River, and she packed 50 pounds, and I had 130. And so we packed in.
Going in?
Going in. So when we got to, I was going to spend, we went in 3 weeks before the season opened. And so I wanted to really look it over and try to find the biggest thing I could. So we got in there, and we buried some stuff, run stuff up in a tree, and then we just started going different directions. And Dishwater is the valley before Ice Cicll. Ice Cicll is a really hard valley to get into. The first governor's permit was the guy wanted a 180 or nothing. I think he paid 180 or maybe it was 200,000 for that permit. And they took him up Ice Cicll because there was a ram in there that he didn't get, but it washed out in the spring, and it scored 182. And that's where I used to hunt. There's a place up there I call The Rock. And I've taken, myself and other people have taken 18 rams out of there over a 40-year period. And the last guy I took in there, Dr. Menard, a good friend of mine, drew a permit. I could never draw a permit for that area.
Yeah.
But he drew it, and took him in, and he got a 177. And see, the sheep are in there. The Chugach has the second best genetics, I guess you'd say, for heavy horns and bases and stuff. And that ram had 14 to 5/8 bases, and it was just barely full curl, but it was almost just shy of 44 inches.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people look at that and say
That's heavy,
it's like
big.
the one that Dan Montgomery got with his through Dan over there in the East Fork about 3 years ago or something like that. Scored. It's the biggest sheep taken in Alaska since 1984. It was barely a full curl, but it was, I think, 11 years old, and a lot of people probably passed it up because they wasn't sure it was even a full curl.
Yeah.
And I don't think they knew what they had until they actually put a tape on it, because it had like 15.5-inch bases. So that's where you're going to get the big score. They don't look as impressive as these real curly ones,
Right.
and they're pretty or whatever, but they do score.
Big, heavy, thick.
Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah.
So 1968, 67 to 70, you're basically going out on the weekends and your time off and just
Right.
pleasure hiking and scouting and kind of figuring out the lay of the land.
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
back to my wife there. When you talk about numbers, so Dishwater, we went up there before you get to Ice Cicll, and there was 13 rams in that one valley there. You go up Ice Cicll, there were 17 full curls, and I've argued, I won't say argued, but I've had discussions with biologists and stuff, and some of them, young guys are today, say it's as good as ever. It's just a downturn, and I said, listen, you weren't here. There was 3,500 sheep in the Chugach Park back in the 80s. And then you go across from Ice Cicll, across the valley, straight across, you have Heritage Falls. There was 13 rams on one mountain there on the right-hand side. You go up to the left, there was more. So in 2 weeks, after we was in there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the guy we were staying with and had our truck and our stuff, he's another teacher that I'd met, and he had a boy that had it wasn't his son, but he didn't have a dad, and so he wanted to take him hunting, and he had never killed a sheep. So they came in after we'd been in there for 3 weeks, and so we took them. We didn't want to take them up bicycle because we had some sheep up there we wanted. So
Sure.
we took them across to, and, you know, back in those days, you could have gone up any of those things and got a
Found a nice
40-inch sheep.
Yeah.
And so we took them up there, and so we next morning after we got up there, we pointed out some sheep. Said, "You guys go after them." So they did. We just sat back and watched them, and they shot 2 rams. And in the back of the valley, I hadn't checked it out maybe good enough, or some had moved in. After they fired a shot, a ram coming out leading. I don't remember how there was, but there was a string of rams following him. The lead ram, you could see horns sticking out on both sides of his body about 6 inches, and it was really a big ram. It went out, climbed right up the glacier. That would be Polar Bear Mountain, I think it was, on the left hand side, right up that glacier, and right over the top, boom. And I said, "Whoa," you know.
Wow.
But
Do you try to go find them?
no, you know, somebody was talking the other day. I really should have, but we had already had. I had my wife with me too, and she can really go good, but you just can't drag her everywhere.
Right.
And so we went up Ice Cicll where we'd already been there, and there was we shot 2. Let's go like 168 and 167, and they weren't nothing like that one that went over the top.
Yeah.
In the 50 years that I've been hunting them, that one and 2 others got away. Different circumstances. I had to be back to school.
Yeah.
A lot of my hunts were 2.5 to 4 days because I thought I'd need to be back coaching and stuff. So my wife would take me up, drop me off. I'd hike in that evening. Next day I'd head up the valley, find the biggest sheep that I could find, shoot it, hike it out the next day, and back to work on Monday.
And were you pre-scouting those in the summer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had like a plan or maybe a specific sheep you were looking for.
You know, no, and if I had it to do over.
It changes every time though, doesn't it?
It does, but you know, if I had it to go over again, I was happy with what I was getting. I thought it would go on forever. I thought I'd never get old, and all those things changed. And I honestly believe, and this is not boasting or anything, but there are so many sheep and big rams back in the day, and you got to, like I tell a lot of guys, if you want a big ram, you have to let smaller ones go, 40 inchers go. You know, after you shot some of those, you know what you're looking for. So if there's bigger ones out there, and if you want to go for those, then you have to pass them up. If I had it to go over again, I would have taken off a week of school, and I'd had 2 weekends on each side, and I don't think there'd been any problem getting a 40-incher every year, and I got 14 anyway.
Yep.
But I believe a guy could have got a Boone and Crockett ram if you'd really want to go out and scout and knew where it was at, and you had 9 days. You know, is
plenty of time.
Yeah.
What was the rules like back then?
Well, you know, when I first came up here, it was 3/4 curl, and then it went to 7/8, and you know, a 3/4. I guess a lot of people think that's a trophy because it's legal and it's hard, you know, and you couldn't get anything better. And so if they're happy with it, that's fine. I was glad to see them go to a full curl because now you're talking about a ram it's
Mature.
Substantially older.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a trophy. And my first ram was 36 inches. And, man, I thought it was a trophy.
That's
and it
right.
was. I worked really hard for it, harder than I did for a lot of other sheep.
Was that the one with your wife? Or was that?
No, I was hunting with the guy that was supposed to stay and hunt with me after we get out of the military, but he ended up going back to New York.
Okay. So
we had, it was our first hunt in there, going up Eagle River, and there were some other GIs in there, and there was a few other tents. And so I was under the impression that the further back you go, the better the hunting gets.
Yeah.
You know? Well, that's not the case. I found out a lot of years there in Eagle River, about midways in is actually where the better sheep are at. Not up past the glacier. There might have been a few up in there, but the really big rams were right in that Ice Cicll, Dishwater, and just around the corner from that and across the valley there. That's about a 3 mile stretch in there. But it was, you know, there was a lot of big sheep, and if you a I've run into guys. My wife and I, when we got back up here in 1973, getting ready to go back to teaching, or got my first job teaching up here. And next year, I think it was 74 when I was eligible to go hunting again for sheep. We hiked in up Eagle River on a Friday, camped just before you get to, it was right around Dishwater, and it was, of course, we were headed towards Ice Cicll, and there was two guys there that were testing gear, and they had 2 tents, they had 2 of everything, and they'd hike up the mountain, and they'd come back down to their tent every night. Well, you can see sheep up there, but that's wasted energy. You're burning your feet up. You're wearing yourself out. And to me, it's discouraging. I've always gone with the philosophy that where I'm at, I'm going to pack my pack up there with my gear, and I'm not going to leave it in the bottom. I'm going to spike out up top or in the valley up. Once you get up over the top, it may take like I'd say back if you're in pretty good shape, around 4 or 5 hours. Will get you back up in a side valley through the alders, back up to where you can spike out and start spotting sheep, and you can actually go from there after the sheep.
And stay up high.
And just stay there.
Okay.
Because if you go back down, now you got to go back up again the next morning.
You lose elevation over and over again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big debate, right? That's like 2 different strategies that people do.
Sure.
Some will just walk the valley until they see something high, and some will go up and stay up high.
It depends on the valley. You take, like in the Brooks Range with those big, long valleys, you can walk up those things, and you can spot, and you might be able to go from there in a day's time, go up and get it and come back. They're easier mountains. But the Chugach, and they're rugged as heck. And if you shoot at a sheep in the Brooks Range or the Alaska Range a lot of times, in some places where I've hunted there, those sheep you may see them 5 miles away as they continue to leave, but in the Chugach, a lot of those is so rugged that when you shoot it, he may go up over the top and just out another ridge, and he's used to getting away from, and he's not used to people hunters following him, and I followed him up and got him.
There he is, right there.
Yeah, and so they're not afraid like the other sheep. They react different.
Yeah,
Wow,
their
that's a
safety
good-
zone is right beside them. That steep stuff.
It's a great point, yeah, because we've been in the Brooks and seen some other guys take a ram and watched a group hightail it, gone.
Yeah,
I mean, out of sight, like 2 valleys over. Like
keep
they
going.
did, like they weren't stopping. And it was
Right.
like, oh well, if there was a legal one in that group, they're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess that makes sense. So the Chugach, a lot of the battle is through the alders, Lou.
It is,
and
I'm glad the elders are there because it keeps people out, and a lot of people don't like them. And I have I think you asked me about my knees and dunking a basketball. Well, there's a guy I coached with
Question number
in
one.
a different school, and I actually coached his kids, so we got along fine. But he used to give me gas about being short and couldn't dunk a basketball because he had played in the European League and some professional basketball and stuff, and could dunk, and I went out sheep hunting, and I came back with a sheep every year, and he had one little guy, so he finally quit giving me gas because he didn't make it through the alder very good. But that's being short, I guess, is a little bit of an advantage through the alders.
There you go.
But a lot of people ask me, it's not. You don't have to have the big muscles and all that. Half of the battle is mental. If you want to do it, and you keep. May take you longer than somebody else, but if you really want to do it, you can. It's just
You gotta
Mind over
love
matter.
that suck.
That's right.
Back when they could do the quarter curl, how would you?
Three-quarter?
Three-quarter curl. I mean, how would you legally like?
That's always been a problem of figuring out what is
Yeah,
illegal.
like how do you know what it is?
I think 3/4 basically. I'd have to think back now. I haven't thought about that in a long time, but I think if it's pointing forward and maybe they're starting to turn up,
Okay, so they had it defined.
But
I'm sure.
even then, I'm sure there was going to be some people bringing them in that aren't quite legal.
Right.
Yeah.
And then 7/8. That's even harder now. It's between 3/4 and a full. So that would be harder to determine. With the problem with the sheep population the way it is, I've put in for quite a few different suggestions, and none of them were ever accepted. But one of the last ones I put in was because we're, and this is back when we were like 700 sheep. Now we're down to about half, exactly about half of that.
Yep.
I said, it's guides or non-residents against residents, and non-residents, they have the resident only spends like 5 days on average in the field. So he's a day going, a day coming, and if he has bad weather or whatever, 5 days is not 4 to 5 days. That's why they're not very successful.
Yeah.
Of course, the guy that pays the money and goes with the guide, now then they have a packer. They have probably an assistant guide there, so there's 2 guys with him. He really doesn't have to even pack anything other than maybe just his sleeping bag and his clothes. And maybe his rifle. Maybe not even that. But anyway, but I always figured I can, I should be able, even my age, I think you can outrun most of those guys that are they're having to pull up the hill. But your original question, I kind of lost it.
Jack, was that your question? Or it was the 3/4 curl?
Oh, the 3/4 curl?
I think you were.
My suggestion was this. We're down so low, and I thought about it then, so how much more is it appropriate now? I said, let's go to residents and don't even worry about the non-residents. We're 80% of the hunters. First thing I said, let's change it where fishing game, 80% of their budget comes from non-resident license tags. So I said, since we're 80% of the hunters, let's start charging us $100, $200 for a sheep tag and a moose tag. And so we're not tied to the non-resident, keeping their budget going.
Yeah, and the revenue's still there.
And they didn't want to do that because that takes you have to go through the Congress, and of course, Alaskan's spoiled. We don't have to. We don't have a tax, state tax. We don't have, and we get the dividend. And people want everything for nothing, And for years, you could go for $25. You could shoot everything except maybe a muskox, a bison, and a brown bear. Mm-hmm. So it's time you in the lower 48 for maybe an elk tag. It'll cost a lot of those guys around $150 to $200. So why shouldn't we be paying the same thing so we aren't tied to the giving the non-residents are taking. Traditionally, they've taken for probably from about 2018 forward on my statistics, they were taking 40%.
Oh, really?
Recently, in the last few years, I don't know about the last couple years, but say 5 years before that, they're taking like 45% of the game. They're better at it, but listen up to this. Back when we were guides were 75% successful, probably 20, 25, 30 years ago. Residents were 25% successful. Today, residents, I'm not sure what there is, maybe down around 15%, and guides are 60%. So when guides have dropped 15%, then something's wrong.
Right.
And so anyway, so they wouldn't go for that. So I said, okay, let's just worry about residents since we're 80% of the hunters, and maybe it'll go off to the non-residents as well. If you kill a 10-year-old as a resident, you can hunt the next year. I don't care if it's legal, lengthwise, age-wise, or what. It has to be 10 years old. You still have the same legality as far as it's legal or not. If they shoot something smaller, then it might be taken from them. But let's say everybody's is legal. If it's 10 years old, you get to hunt the next year. If you shoot a 9-year-old, you sit out a year. If you shoot an 8-year-old, you sit out 2. You shoot a 7-year-old, you sit out 3. And there are some 6-year-olds that are 40 inches and are going to be a monster. If you shoot a 6-year-old, even though it's legal, lengthwise, full curl, you sit out for 5 years. It's going to make people more selective, and it's going to make people. It's going to leave more sheep on the mountain, and you're shooting older rams, which is good because that way they have a chance to pass on their genetics. And if a sheep is going to die, it'll be usually it's the older rams. You don't find too many younger rams. Not until they start getting into the breeding process.
Yeah, well, and that age is what, like 9, 10?
Well, it varies. They basically they figure an 8-year-old ram is about a full curl. Some of them get it sooner than that. Some of these rams that are going to be a monster ram are 40 inches at 6 years old.
Yeah.
And if they keep 6 years old, and 12 years old is an old ram, except for maybe the Brooks. They're still old, but they get older up there because of a drier climate. But
they're not producing at that age, are they still?
Oh, yeah, they can produce. Okay. Probably a real young ram, 3 years old. They want to get in there. Their hormones are going too.
Right.
Yeah.
But the big guys, keep them out of there.
Right.
Now they'll get a few, but they don't get many. Of course, that's why a lot of your 10-year-olds end up dying. 10, 11-year-olds, they die because they spend their bodies totally out. They're friends until the rut comes around. When those hormones start kicking in, they're knocking each other off cliffs and whatever it takes, because you're not going to. I'm doing the Rampages 4 and 5, and I've got about 300 photos that are just, absolutely, and they're live sheep. And I got one sequence of this ram, a young ram, probably 3/4 on a ewe, starting to breed her, and this 43-inch ram hits that a guy in the side, and the first one is he's just made contact, nothing's happened yet, just got there. The second photo, he's going down, and you can see his tallywhacker, like it's here. The third one is starting to shrivel, and the fourth one, he's on his back up into the rocks. And so
just got pile drived.
He did.
Wow, that's an amazing picture.
But
let's see that. Yeah. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Let's do it.
Barney's Sports Chalet, supplying hunters and outdoor enthusiasts with the highest quality gear and equipment since they opened their doors in 1963. Barney's carries exclusive brands such as Alpaca Rafts, Sitka Sims, Exo Mountain Gear, Hilleberg, and much more. Barney's prides themselves with keeping a huge stock on hand of various top-of-the-line tents, footwear, sleeping bags, optics, cross-country skis, just to name a few. Barney's is also the exclusive retailer of Montana knives, Seek Outside, Kafaru, Stone Glacier, and their in-house brand, Frontier Gear of Alaska. Barney's has a superior selection of top-rated boots, sleeping bags, dry bags, mountaineering gear, electronics, and accessories. Need freeze-dried food or mountain snacks? They got that too. Barney's now has an amazing new paperback catalog available for in-store pickup or online order. Visit them today at barneysports.com, or even better, stop by the store in Anchorage at 906 West Northern Lights. If you want the best, there's only one name in the game, Barney's Sports Chalet.
Alaska Mining and Diving Supply, located in Anchorage for 47 years, has expanded 3 stores. The main store, the largest Skidoo sled dealer in North America, also has Can-Am, Sea-Doo, Climb, Suzuki Outboards, Honda Outboards, generators and snowboards, Kingfisher boats, and so much more. Alaska Motorsports and Equipment just next door, which was previously Anchorage Suzuki Arctic Cat, for all your Arctic Cat, Suzuki ATV, Husqvarna, Generac, Mahindra Tractor, and now Argo Pro and Sasquatch needs. And to round it out, also next door, the brand new Alaska Mining Superstore, for the largest selection of recreational and light commercial mining equipment anywhere, period.
The Treehouse AK, your one-stop dispensary located at 341 Boniface Parkway. When you pull up to the Treehouse, you'll notice the beautifully hand-drawn art by Alaska's own Ted Kim. Once you get inside, you're going to see many of the same people that have been there since they opened. The bud tenders know you and what you like and what new product you should be checking out. The store is super clean and the music's always on point. The Treehouse and local owner Josh Boots is a staple in the cannabis culture through his music, community givebacks, and a lifetime desire to bring the people of Alaska the best products available. The Treehouse always has at least 25 strains available, and they're all shown prominently deli style in clear, openable jars so you can see and smell your options. Other products include edibles, concentrates, vape carts, pre-rolls, flour, dab rigs, and anything else you need, they got it. They also have some pretty sick merchandise for sale. Check out thetreehouseak.com, or better yet, stop by the Treehouse today and get started on their loyalty program. Remember, you must be 21 years of age to enter their store. The Treehouse, where the culture lives.
Go.
The biggest ram in the group, I think there was 7. Once we got in the valley, we were kind of like tucked in, kind of right before before you kind of come over the last hump. There's a huge rock, and we found like old mountain houses under there and shit.
That's what I call the rock. Probably it's just up off the riverbank on the left hand side.
Yes, yep.
Is that like your infamous rock, the rock?
It is, and I used to. I don't know what it's like. I've been up there for 10 years or so, but before the guides found it, and I used to have. I have an axe in there. I chop alders, and I put the alders behind the rock where they dry out for the next year.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, there was big rams in there every year, so I didn't even, a lot of times, have to go even scouting. I mean, I just knew they were there. And so, and then I had rocks put up here in front. I could sleep 3 guys. Well, when the guides found it, they pushed that stuff out so they could sleep 4 under there. So I just reached back and I had a grate, a big grate there. And I just set it up here on the deal, and I had get my alders around behind, and it was a great setup. Didn't have to have a tent or anything. There's a slide that comes down in front of that rock over on this side here. A slide comes down here. There's another slide, not quite the exact same thing, but those sheep, they transfer back and forth between those two 7,500-foot peaks. I've seen them come down through there. Usually they do it at night, just when you can just see them like ghosts.
Right.
And if you'd had night vision, you could have told something.
Watch the show.
And I think that was our problem, because it was like we knew where they were. We patterned them every day, stayed out of the way, and man, they'd come down in order, the smallest to largest, and the biggest one never came down all the way, at least when it was still light. So we ended up having to take the largest one we could the most mature one that we could, but I had to get back to college, so I kind of felt bad, because he would have stayed there another week and I would have loved to, but anyway, a bear ate our raft. So
it did.
Down so we were sitting over there with whistles on the bank, trying, because the old Iditarod trail, right, it's across, and finally at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, it was early, someone came out. It was like a hiker from the Eagle Riverside came up, and we gave him someone's phone number, and then got a raft, but it was a silly day.
That was a draw permit in 2000 that John drew?
Yeah, it was it was either 2000 or 2001. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you say you went up there without a tent?
Yeah, I don't need one.
You don't take a tent?
You slept under the rock, right?
No, I do. I sleep under the rock. The rock's fine. I mean,
it's like a ledge.
What it is, it's a rock that's
almost cave-like,
half the size of this room.
Yeah.
And it sits up like this. Now, my wife was a little freaked out about it because there's some splits in it, but they've probably been there for hundreds of years.
Right.
It's not a bad way to go.
And you don't get wet in there. And, I mean, the smoke curls out and goes up like that, and it's just a neat place.
Yeah.
It's kind of
it's just nostalgic.
It was.
Yeah. It was funny how many mountain houses were under that rock.
Well, what happened is, I didn't leave those mountain houses cost enough. I hauled out what I took in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What that was is probably some guides were in there, and they may have been coming back in later. I don't know. Of course, if you I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, they just leave it. I found other places. I found one place where the guys were leaving out, and they dumped all their mountain house by a tree. I just loaded them up and packed them. What do they weigh? 3-4 pounds?
Yeah.
You got meals for next season. That's awesome. It's funny how many rocks that you find like that there are mountain houses under that other people have stashed, and that's memorable though.
That's good.
I got a can that I left up there one year, a tuna fish can, and I got it up there the next year. I went back, and it was rusted up, and there was a shard of a tooth in the bottom of that thing, but I know it had to have been a wolverine. They grabbed that old tuna fish can, the kind you have to open up with a can opener.
Yeah.
And they're really solid, so he had to grab that thing and hold it down, and then his teeth, he's got his teeth marks in there. He bit down, and he just opened it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just peeled that sucker open.
Oh my goodness.
And left one of his shards of his teeth, enamel was in the bottom of that thing. I got it at home.
That's
you got it on a little chain.
Well, I got it in a cabinet with all my skull collection.
Isn't it amazing that they would be able to smell that through the can?
Yeah.
Well, there's food in there.
No, I don't think they know that. They just
You're
curious
on the outside.
And I've been moose hunting over in the Yinlo area when there's a lot of big bulls over there. And once a weekend we shot a bull, and we left our stuff there because we were going to come back the next weekend. When we came back, 3 Coleman canisters. Have you ever, how that stuff freezes when it comes out of there?
Oh yeah,
it'll freeze. I mean,
a
bear bit all 3 of them. It takes pretty strong to, your teeth to go through, and it can't be good on your teeth.
No.
Bite through there, and I think it just ticked him off. That stuff sprayed out there and froze him up, like that. So he just got the other 2 of them.
I'm going to get you, too.
Had a little temper tantrum there.
I think so.
Oh man, that'd be hilarious.
If you had a pet bear, you could put a pack on him and take him up there, and he could pack all your stuff out.
You've thought about this before?
Well, you might have to shoot something to feed him.
Very true. Well, I made a note. I had the pleasure of attending your Q&A hangout there at Palmer Ale House Friday before last. That was fun. Your stories were great, and some of the questions were really good. You mentioned that you're a collector of stuff, Alaska stuff. And so I know you invite a lot of folks out to your house.
Yeah.
I haven't seen your home. I have two little questions here. So would you consider your house like a Ram museum?
Well, when I first got up here in 1960, I came back up in 70 with my in-laws, and we just came up here for a visit. And when I drove into Fairbanks, there was a museum up there called, I think it's called the Eskimo Museum. And it wasn't very big. It was probably, I don't know, 1,500 square feet at the most.
Okay.
But they had some neat stuff in there. They had a moose chair out of made in, it was really neat, and with a snowshoe, stuff you sit on. And from then on, I wanted to have a museum when I retired. So I was collecting things when we ride along and everything. I got from I drive the bus up to Fairbanks. And in between, sometimes when I had a break, I would take off and go look for things. And I went back up in the summer, and I found a bunch of mining buckets. So I rented a semi and a forklift and went up there, and I've got, I think, 19 mining buckets. And I was going to, for the museum, I was going to line the driveway coming in.
Yeah.
You know where the Turner log cabin is off to the left, and you have those where they built the freeways up going around, like going to Wasilla and stuff like that?
Uh-huh.
Well, if I had actually purchased the land, that would have killed my view. And so it's a good thing I didn't. Several things happened. When I retired in 1999, my son was in the military, and he was he was married, and he was down in Florida. He ended up getting stuck there for 23 years. And I wanted to collect for the museum, but I wanted my kids to run it. My daughter married a guy in college. She was an all-state basketball player, and was she'd met a guy that played for the Wildcats, Arizona, and he was a big guy. I wanted to see how much he could pack. He weighed during the season. He had
just sizing him up.
Well, he could bench 500 pounds. He squatted 700. And he weighed 240, but he might have ate more than he was worth. I don't know. Yeah. But
he needed a front backpack for his food.
He ended
separate packer just to feed the guy.
You're right. He ended up dying in a vehicle accident, and so she stayed there because there was a lot of money in Salt Lake. She was a orthodontist assistant, and she ended up marrying a guy later. He's a chiropractor there. But your question is?
I don't think he benched 500 pounds.
No, he's a strong guy, but he could have had a 42-inch vertical leap, but which is really good. But he didn't grow up hunting.
Yeah,
he'd go hunting with me, I think, but I'm not sure. We're gonna have to see if he's too busy.
We were talking about your
cool
collector of stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
What's some really unique things you got?
I had all these mining buckets, and then of course Cabela's, and different places moved in, and it's. You could compete with them in a way, but I wouldn't have near the stuff, and so it ended up being. It lines my driveway. I got two mining buckets. I got a mining bucket that weighs as much as your vehicle. They weigh like
the old dredge,
they weigh
bucket style,
8,000 pounds.
Oh
man! These came off the Bima, which was built in Singapore. Brought over, assembled in Nome, and they ran it out in the ocean for that flower gold because it's too big to run inland into the rocks and stuff. So a lot of these, they have these buckets that go on a line, like 40 or buckets going around and around like that.
Yeah.
So I got buckets that weigh 750 pounds. I got two of those. I got buckets that weigh 1,250 pounds. I got 7 of those. I got
Lew like that
2,000 pounders. Yeah, I got. Oh, that's it. That's those. No, that's not the really big
something like that though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those are like 2,000 pounders.
Oh, maybe something like that.
There's only 4 of these that are around here, unless you got something from Nome. There's a guy out on, if you guys remember, these are all smaller. They couldn't handle this size bucket. They weigh 8,000 pounds, much as a vehicle, and they're this big. I have 2 of them. They cost me $4,500 a piece. I don't think my wife knows, but a guy by the name of Conrad Sausley had the gardening thing. There were the landscaping thing out there just past on Diamond. You coming out past
Bells or not Bells.
And there used to be mining buckets all along in there.
Yeah.
And he was a really interesting guy, and so I bought those from him. And
those are cool.
Yeah,
You're not, Poor guy that runs into that thing in your driveway, though.
Yeah, I slid into the 2,000 pounder with my Excursion, and it was just a slick. I slid down. It didn't do much damage. Bent the license plate, but
yeah. What else? What else do you got?
Okay, that's just going in, and
that's outside the house.
Yeah. Most people downsize when the kids leave. I double the size of the house, and
we got stuff to put in here.
Yeah. To my wife's chagrin, she would like to downsize, I think, but I keep almost everything. All the boots that I ever wore, I've got them all. I've the K99s that I wore out in 19 days, the first boots I ever wore. Then I went to what are they? Danners. I wore a bunch of those. They're the first ones and before that I had the Herman Survivors, and I bought 3 or 4 or 5 pair of those, and then Danners. And then I went to La Sportivas, and then Scarpas, and now I'm on they're a lighter boot that came out my son wanted to try.
Crispies.
Crispies.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
So,
man, that's a full evolution there.
It is, yeah. Did you ever run an LL Bean? Those old school LL Bean
boots?
duck boot things?
It's
always said there's like the first hunting boot, and I'm like, I can't imagine guys hiking around the mountains with those
similar
things.
type thing. I got ones from Eddie Bauer. He was a big deal back then.
Okay, I could see that, yeah.
But I didn't give them a really good go because they were put together with nails and stuff, and I'd go to the top of a mountain and I'd run down like you're skiing and get to the bottom just really fast, and it just wore the heck out of those where the sole is connected.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So I that wasn't fair for the boots, but I don't like the plastic. Excuse me, the plastic boots.
You want some water?
The Koflax?
Yeah. The Koflax, I have friends that use those, but I don't like them. They're like a ski boot.
Yeah, some of the really OG sheep hunters live and die by those things. And if you ever put on a pair, I'm like,
I think they're hard on your knees. And
what are they good for? Just like side hilling? Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But how much do you side hill? I usually go
You're not
long
twisting
distance.
an ankle.
I might go 30 miles up valleys, to get where I want to go. And then you go up the mountain, so you don't spend that much time side hilling. To me,
maybe like the Brooks and some like stretches, but if you're doing full hike from the truck bottom to the top,
yeah,
I couldn't see rocking.
So what I went to was those Scarpas. I like them. They're in between. They're pretty stiff.
Yeah, I like
those.
Those
are good boots. Yeah,
they wear like iron.
Yeah, they hold up too.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. Those are real good.
The Crispies a little less stiff.
They're lighter, less stiff, and like my son said, they roll a little bit better, a little bit natural roll, so that you don't get that. You get a little bit of that ski boot type thing with the Scarpas, but it was okay. I mean, I liked them.
Which Crispies do you have?
I don't even really know. We got one about 2 years ago, and I know they got different models out now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they have a bunch.
I'm curious about the evolution of the backpacks.
Oh, that's a big deal because that first one I had, and then I went to, and of course, Bob Hudson was
Barney's
had
Bob?
taken over.
Yeah.
Right. And so he started. That was before he was using camp trails, selling camp trails, and they were far better than what I had originally had. So I got into those, and they were better frames and had a belt and a little better pads up here. Then he started designing them himself and having them build them for him, and then I think he ended up finally just doing his own. And he did a great job. For me, and I'm kind of old school, I never worn the Koflax, so it's hard for me to put them down. But I just knew in my head I didn't want they weren't going to work. An internal frame pack. I've probably had 7 or 8 9 packs. I just use a lot of them now just for display with animals on
In
them.
the museum.
Yeah, and
Is that what the packs you use for your website photo?
yeah, a lot of them are.
Okay, those are really great.
And but I never did use the Trapper Nelson. You know, I think maybe a Trapper Nelson would have been better than that early camp trails that I had. Honestly.
We've got the view right here, Lou, of you got a
that's
bunch of sheep
awesome.
Oh yeah.
packed in packs there.
Yeah. I didn't use all those packs. Some of those I bought off the internet or just around. I pick them up. You know, I bought a lot of those packs are now at $15-$20, and now then you go to buy one of those Trapper Nelsons, it might cost you $400.
Wow.
$250. I mean, they're not giving them away anymore.
Which one's the Trapper Nelson? Is it up there?
Yeah, take a look there, Lou.
Okay, this Trapper Nelson right here.
Number 3.
Number
4. You messed it up. Look at that. 1, 2, 4, 3. Oh, look at that, huh?
So this
Sneaky.
Is, yeah, I wasn't very high tech.
Grail. This is how you taught the kids, huh?
Looks like a gym teacher scribble scrabble going on there.
He taught Jim, guys. He taught Jim, not math.
Yeah.
Oh, and so what's number 8?
I was in a hurry to do something else, so I never went back and corrected it. Number 8 is that's one of those first. I had 2 of those packs, one for my wife and one for myself. I don't see the other one. It's on there. I think I didn't use it, but that was the one I didn't use that much. That's why it looks so good, coloration wise. This is those deep packs right here. But I tried to convince Bob, and he finally listened to me. I think it's called Yukon. They're great packs.
You can bring that up to you right there. Yeah, bring that out. There you go.
They're great packs, but I prefer this style right here. This is what I have now.
That's the Barney's pack?
Yeah, I finally told Bob, I said, I don't like them going skinnier as you go down. I want that thing to stay like this because I put my meat right in here with the horns like that and secure them to loops that I have around the back side.
Put all the gear on top.
Yeah, I like my meat. When this thing down here, I have one of those old stuff bags.
Mm-hmm.
I can put over 1,000 cubic inches in here. So the whole thing is like 10,000 cubic, more than that, about 2,500 down here in this thing. And then 7,500 up in here. And then you can put your sheep cape and stuff like that up like that. I put my pad in here this way. I don't worry about, I carry my rifle. I don't like the thing that.
Oh, you hold it in your hand?
I carry it in a case.
Like a soft scabbard?
Well, there's some that was made by Copland back when that were waterproof, lightweight, and the inside they had a
sleeve.
A sleeve. You go in there, and that thing is great. And
it's light, right? It's plastic.
Yeah, exactly. It'll float. Yeah. And if I go in through alders and stuff like that, you could move that thing and lay it around.
Sure.
Or if you go to fall, you can drop your rifle.
Right.
I knocked my scope off before, and and this way. It kept it clean, kept it dry. Sometimes I'd have to take it out because sweat and difference in temperatures and stuff. So I'd take it out and let it dry. But I like that. I don't like the rifle up here this way. I can get it out really fast here with carrying it this way.
Sure.
If it's up here, and guys say, you're going to get caught by a bear. Well, I have before. And I have to get it out. All I have to do is hit this thing like this here and out like that. I got it here. And
sure.
I can do that. And probably when you have to, you probably get it in less than 10 seconds.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
And if you have to take your pack off.
Oh, no.
That's a whole other. Yeah. Try 40
So
seconds.
these are those old packs. Some of the this right here is the
number 6.
Number 6 is the Kelty, and they got those red zippers. You can see it right here. What I did was my wife found this thing at a secondhand store, and so she's heard all this talk. She says, I think Frank Cook, he shot the number 1 back in '56, 49.5 inches up.
Oh, we were just looking at that thing.
The Wrangles.
No, he didn't shoot that in Wrangles. He shot that up between Friday Creek and Meadow Creek.
Really?
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, the Kinnick Valley.
Exactly. And so this one here is one of those early ones of Bob's that still has a camp trail thing up here, but they're a lot better. And you had enough on the packs, but this is one of Bob's after he started making them. It still says camp trails on there, but he had his logo on it, and it's starting to get these big deals here on the side, so you can put I like this for putting my spotting scope in. Now they got 2 big long ones here, and I got after Kevin a little bit because I said I like to have 2 bags on the side. He says, Lou, we can't just make these for you, So he's right. I like to have my scope over here, spotting scope, and then over there I like to have different things. So
The Lew Bradley edition.
well, he called this one the Elite.
Oh, your mic. There you go, Lou.
Which I like.
Thanks for breaking those down, man.
This one over here is I got my bag on the bottom, and then it's called I think it's called a Hunter. They call it the Elite, so that you can put your sleeping bag and everything on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then you have the whole top pack there, and he widened it on the bottom, which I really like.
Yeah.
And because I put my meat and stuff in there.
You put it in the bottom, in that bottom section?
It fits right in the middle. It sits on top of my sleeping bag.
Oh, okay. You put the sleeping bag in the bottom,
So
and then the meat's right there.
Right
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
It gets too high.
It's
Then
like the middle of the pack.
it's right. It's right in
essentially.
it's right in my
The lower
part of
small
my
of your back.
back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, keep that core balance.
So you really ran through kind of all the different variations of packs, and I guess in the end, are you an external frame guy?
I am, and I didn't. I'll agree that probably there's a lot of people you see using Stone Glacier. I think is probably pretty popular.
Yeah.
And they're probably great, and they're probably there's some advantages to those. Like if you're in the rocks and you're in a tight place, and sometimes you can get catapulted a little bit or catch a external frame pack. But if I weigh all the things out, like I said, I'm old school, and I like it. It works good for me, and
And they're comfortable too. Those Barney packs are comfortable.
Yeah, they're nice.
Oh, very.
I can put everything that
You could put way more stuff than you can carry.
Exactly.
It seems like the metal ones have less torsion, when you're carrying a heavy load. I mean, the new, like the Stone Glaciers, they don't wobble like the old internal frames, but they still seem to like have a little bit of torsion.
There's a little sway.
And those packs, have metal preventing that. So
Yeah.
And it gets down to a lot of stuff psychological. If you like a certain thing, that's what you should use.
yep.
Yeah. Even though it might not, something might be more comfortable or
Right.
it might be more like logical to use this pack for this reason. But if you, like you said, if your mind is telling you this is the one,
Right.
Why-
Well, I think
why
a lot
try
of
to fix
guides,
something?
I don't know, but just listening to different ones, if you're really into heavy hunting and carrying big loads, you can't beat the Barney pack.
Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd say if you're a packer, that's your tool.
Yeah.
If you're a 100-pound plus guy, you're not weight, but carrying
Did
that
you
on average.
did you keep all of your Rams as Euros? Or did you
Keep
do
it-
shoulder mounts on those? Or did all your-
I think I've got like 6, 4, maybe 7 mounts. For the first ones. Some of them I got my 36-inch Ram, and the taxidermy is really bad.
those are the best ones.
the skin's
man.
breaking
It's
down.
it's all smiling at you. And shit. Just-
And the guy that did that actually did the world's record was Harry Swank Ram, Frank
Oh,
Dills.
yeah.
It's not the best.
57? When was the Swank?
Swank 61.
61.
But Joe Romero, he mounted a 44, a little over 44, and a 46 and a half for me, and he's an artist. He isn't getting wealthy. He does everything himself.
One of the best in
And,
the business, right?
Yeah, he fleshes most of the stuff. When people come in, I flesh mine, but he'll turn the ears, and if I'm going to get out pretty fast, I just let him do it, and the lips.
Okay. Yeah.
And because a lot of guys mess stuff up, and then they just have to patch it up,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can tell a world of difference. I got, the 2 Rams that Joe did, and then you see some that 3 other taxidermists did. There's no comparison.
Yeah.
If you called Joe today with another 40-incher that you got, would he do it for you?
Yeah, probably. He's trying to get.
I'm asking because
set up.
he's apparently retired, but I was just wondering if Lew called, would
Well-
he bust out his tools and go to work?
I'm not going to take a 40-incher to him. The only way I'll take a 40-incher to him is
okay.
if it had 15.5-inch bases and it was broomed off,
all right,
like
all right.
the end of a baseball bat.
Okay.
yeah.
There's a standard. Okay.
He's retired though, right?
He is. I think down the road, if he finds the right place to where he could, had a setup where he could do some stuff out of the house, that he might get back into it a little bit. Not big time, but just maybe for friends and whatnot.
Right. Where was he off of?
He was at Aurora Wildlife Arts, right there off of between Arctic and
right behind the double shovel.
I thought it was the same Joe. Yeah, he was. Yeah. He helped Freshie with some stuff. Yeah, I met him before. He was a.
Yeah, Joe's.
How do you spell his last name?
Romero.
Oh, okay. Romero. Romero. Okay.
Yeah, he's no Romeo, I don't think, but maybe he is. I don't know.
He was really good with Jesse. They went over and tanned their own.
He tans his own sheep and goat hides, which I like, because you send them out. Some of these places they tan them up, and if he gets blood out. You should try to get it out yourself in the field if you can, but he tans them and doesn't put what do you call it, the Clorox or whatever they use to bleach them.
Bleach, yeah.
And so they turn out great.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I didn't know he did his own tanning though.
And if you go in there and watch him, some taxidermists, I think they just order a form and they stretch a hide on there, and a lot of people don't know the difference. What it should look like. But Joe, I've never seen an animal, sheep, bear especially, changing the form. If it's a shorter bear, if it's a longer bear, taller bear, and he puts all this stuff on the outside and makes muscles in there and stuff. It's
oh wow,
he's a
true artist.
Yeah, he is. He doesn't want something going out, and what hurts his feelings is if he puts out something really nice and the guy throws it up on the wall, and then he puts a place where they smoke and it gets dirty, and he brings it back to him 10 years later, and wants it cleaned.
Yeah. The way that he had built the ones up that we saw in the shop, where like you're talking, where it was almost like he built like the tone into the muscles, and you could see like a different type of clay or whatever, Pastor Paris or whatever they use it on the outside in those spots. It was pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, his attention to detail is pretty amazing, with just like the eyeballs and the painting and.
Exactly. And Joe was pretty much a one-man show, and when you do that, you're getting his work. But if you end up, if there's multiple taxidermists, it's hard to keep this quality. I mean, there's some that do, but. And of course the other thing is Joe, he put it out. It was a reflection on him, and he wanted you see something there that
stamps on there.
Exactly. He didn't want to. Of course, you can go the other way, and you can turn stuff out really fast and turn the money over quick. But I think that'll hurt you in the long run. Down the road, people aren't going to be bringing stuff to you.
So you have what, 5 or 6 beautiful rams? Are they your most prestigious trophy rams?
I've got a beam in our old house, the old part of the house.
We doubled this. There's an image of that, Daniel. If you
on the
website, yeah. There's I want to say if you scroll down, there's an image of rams on like a lower beam or a shelf.
Yeah, I think it's on the next page.
Go to home. Oh, there it is. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Okay.
I put this up a long time ago. My wife, she hardly ever had a day off one time between basketball and wrestling season, I took a day off, and she was working at that time when the kids were older, and she came home. And I had all these sheep on that beam. And
that's kind of a move I did.
That's a lot of work went into that, honey. I mean, I can't take them down.
So she wasn't happy for a while, but I keep saying, and I used that here recently, and it just about got my head knocked off. Oh, she'll get over it,
Yeah. Well, my wife had a 2-head limit, and then she came home to a 3rd, and it was she was upset too.
So anyway, these sheep, I just line them up on the wall like that, and then I started putting these packs in there. I kind of got carried away with the packs, and I like just displaying them that way. That thing in the middle there is my dad's old red hat. It's a plastic hat. He killed those 2 elk, and back in the 50s and 60s, and so he was really a good hunter.
Why did you? I mean, you seemed like you cut most of them off, but some of them you didn't. Was there a reason for that?
I probably have one somewhere where you cut it off and you cut it down like this and then back like that. I don't like that. It exposes the eyeballs and so I ended up just slicing them off. Part of the reason is when a taxidermist gets them, he wants half of the eyeball there, so he knows where to put the eyeballs. And so I just he cut right through there, and I started out on the nose out here and saw right back through. Now this one here I sawed kind of like that, which I don't like. I like to get them like this, and when you put them on there, you don't see the bottom part of the skull. This one here I didn't do a very good job on. I wasn't into taking pictures and stuff.
Sure,
And I or even trying to do things for good looks. And now, if I had it to go over again, I would have done better.
Yeah.
But this one's 172. No, it's further over here.
Holy shit! Look at that.
This one's, they don't look like it's a pretty young ram, but he's 172. He's 43 inches here. This one here is 178. And I put these on this because that's what I want. I want one that's over 50 inches. So I put those ends on there like that. But this ram here has 15-inch bases, and he's under 38 inches, scored 178. This one here scores 167. This one's 168. This one here's it's 45, and it scores 181 and a half. This one here is 171. And if it hadn't been broomed off there, it'd been better. This is 170. They're heavy. They're not pretty sheep. But I went for heaviness back in.
Yeah, you can tell by the.
This one looks really heavy.
This one here is, the horns aren't equal on each side, but it scores 175. This one here looks big, and when I shot him, I thought he was, because there was nothing else to compare. Because he's by himself. He's 41 inches, but he just got a real
so tight
curl.
Yeah, it's rad how he comes in.
What a cool looking sheep, though.
It's like the logo for the
he
LA
looked
Rams.
he looked like a full curl and then like extras.
Yeah, there was a bigger ram later that I saw, but I was happy with him after I got him home because I like the way he kind of curls.
I personally think those are the coolest looking rams when they're tight and symmetrical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool when they're like the Kuyu looking flared out guy. But when they're tight like that, I mean, I just always thought like that guy was the best fighter because he had all his density up in tight and he could really put the hammer down.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So you pulled all these sheep home. Did you actually bust all the horns off and then boil them and bleach them and do everything yourself?
I did.
Okay.
If usually I cut them off because I didn't want to haul the extra weight because I'm hauling everything. I'm usually by myself. And so,
how many trips have you done pre-scouting and everything else? Yeah.
So I just sawed them off up there. And left them that way. I did. I think I brought out 2 or 3 full skulls, which I like the full skull.
You're talking the Euro?
Yeah, European. I call all these European, but there's 1 or 2 up there. See, those, of course, that's a pickup right there.
Yeah.
And
number 5?
He's heavy.
Or number 3?
Number 3?
Number 3 is a deadhead?
I think it is.
It looks like it.
Yeah. And I like the skull. We boil the whole thing out. It's got the nose and everything there. I carved one at home. One I shot in '79. Beagle River. It was 14-inch bases, I think, and 36 inches, and it was the most aggressive, I guess, carving that I've done on a sheep horns.
You got a picture there?
I'm trying to find it. See if I can find it here.
See if you can find it. You can airdrop it to me.
What's like the type of inspiration when you're doing the carving?
Well, I've been carving since I retired in '99. And I got files, and you get better at anything. Just like when Joe Romero first started, you get better and know what you're looking at, and you want it. It just takes time. And my first carvings were so-so, and then the next one you're gonna not do the same, make the same mistake. And once you take the material off, you can't put it back.
Yeah, one chance, right?
Yeah, right.
Scrimshaw, is that what it's called, right?
No, I actually carve.
What's the difference?
Well, scrimshaw is where you just take and etch in, and then you put some coloration in there, and then you sand it off, and it leaves. It's more like a drawing.
Right. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And
versus carving.
When do I find this thing? I'm not real good. I'm not high tech here.
You need an Instagram page.
Yeah, I guess I do.
Yeah. When you find it, if you airdrop it to me, I'll put it up on the camera there. Whenever you're ready.
Well, here's
It's a hell of a collection. I'm kind of curious too, Lou. So you have your 35 harvested sheep, I imagine all sealed and, recorded in the books, state and
want me to
Boone
do
and
it?
Crockett and the whole thing.
This is one that I did. It's different.
Here, I'll send it to
but
myself
I put
here.
it up there.
I've seen that before. Where have I seen that before?
I don't think you ever seen one of those Licious in the house.
it's-
This is what I split the horn, and it took me 5 hours to split each horn. And I tried to do it on a bandsaw, about cut my hand off and ruined the horn. So I took time and just did it slow. But what happens is that you get the translucent effect.
There we go. We got it on the
Yeah.
TV. Wow, that looks amazing.
Holy shit, that is
Wow.
so cool.
So what I've
dude.
got, what I have is I have 5 rams coming, and they're all Boone and Crockett. I don't do small.
You don't do quarter curls?
No. And, but some of these are off of different ones. Like there's a Pete Buckaloo ram up there. It's 47 5/8. I got some. I take pictures. Of course, out of books and whatever, and then I blow them up or reduce them down in size, and then of course try to get the. I have one that's different than that.
That's so. How long does it take you to do one?
Each
Like one horn.
animal.
Like,
Well,
let's say
I
one
get about
side.
5 hours in each animal up there.
5 hours of each one? Oh, for each
animal.
Each
yeah.
animal.
Yeah.
So in total, this whole thing takes
There's
you
40 hours
I got
plus
about
into
50
that.
to 60 hours in
Yeah.
carving, and then there's drawing up process. I'll show you this one here in a minute. It's totally different if I can find it.
Oh, that is so cool looking.
Yeah, it's awesome.
How do you attach that to that board there?
Well, I drilled a hole through the bottom, and then it takes a lot of just guesstimating. I put it on my I got a belt sander there, and I turned it about the way I wanted it, so it would grind it down a little bit flat on that side there, and then. I'd like to get them both to come up exactly.
Oh, you did a great job
Yeah,
on
you
it.
did.
That's cool how the light goes through.
Yeah.
Yeah, the translucent effect really, I like that. I hadn't planned on doing, this is a third set that I've done, and I'm probably not going to do another one because no one's going to want to pay me for, let me show you the.
Is the backside still just the
backside is
horn looking?
split. Yeah, and
Okay.
one thing you can find out, in my book, I did that before, and when you split a horn like that, you can see how they put on the horn around the core, and they go out, and there's no such thing as a false annuli. It's if you
Oh, really?
no, it's clear cut in there.
So I do have an 11-year-old. You're saying?
It's subjective. It's subjective.
My non-full curl.
Oh,
is
it's
10.
so subjective when you go in there and
Right.
you got 5 guys looking at it, trying
Yeah.
to decide what it is.
So you're thinking that the false annuli are what then?
Well,
real years.
No, they can't. They aren't all necessarily real years, and the only way you'd know is to be able to split it.
Oh, okay.
To give
I
you a good
see.
example, Bob Hodgson has one that he shot about 2 or 3 years ago. It came out of the Brooks Range. He wanted me to look at it and see what I thought. Fishing Game said it was 16 and maybe 17. And so when I looked at it, what it was the. Of course, they have more growth out when they're young,
Right.
and then it's less and less and less. Ideally, if every winter was the same,
You're right.
but they aren't. And so you can have regression. You can have this much growth one year, and you might have this much the next year.
Yes.
And then again, it can go like this.
Right.
And of course, as it gets down, as they get older, sometimes, like the one they found out here 2 years ago that was 13 years old, underneath the hair, where the hair is growing here, there was the last 3 years were right here. You could only see 10 years of growth, but the last 3 are a
We're
quarter
buried
inch.
down in the base there.
Yeah. And that was a real big ram. Wasn't putting on much horn
Right.
After that. Well, not Bob Hodgson, but Kevin Dana, who has Barney's shop
Right.
there, he shot this ram, and so I looked at it and I said, well, okay, it's got all these different ones, quite a bit of growth, a little growth, quite a bit, and 6 of those, and they counted 6 of them. No, they counted 4 of them and didn't count the other 2. So which ones do you? If you're going to count those, to me, you either count them all or you discount them all. He's either 12 or he's 18.
Yeah.
And
Right.
The
the only way you'd know would be because he's got an indention there that goes all the way around. It's dark and it goes around the entire.
Could they
horn.
do an X-ray or MRI?
Well, there is something I think that they could do, and I'm not sure if Kevin did. You can send a tooth off. I think one of the insiders down here.
Okay, and get the true age.
And then they put it under a microscope, and then they can tell. I guess I don't know. I think they said that that's within a year or two accuracy. So there's no definitive way of
unless you split it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Now, what was that Ram's age officially for the books? Was it 16?
For Dana?
For Kevin's?
For Kevin's, yeah.
They said 16, maybe 17.
Okay.
So I looked at it, and I got a page going to do in Rampages 4, and I said, I think it's 18. It's be the oldest ram that I know of. I got a friend that shot a ram. It's in Rampages 1, book 2. He shot it in the Brooks Range, which they typically get older up there because of the dry weather and
Survivability's better?
yeah, and so they live long. Tend to live
Not as rugged.
That could be a part as well,
but not as
maybe
bad
better
winters.
Feed. Not as bad. Yeah, they get the drier winters and
right.
less snow. Right. Although they've had some problems recently with that.
Yeah.
So anyway, this ram was 17, and Fish and Game said it was 17. I thought it was 16, but it very well could be. It's in volume 2 there. If you wanted to pull it out, it's a big ram. It scored 174 Boone and Crockett, and it's just tip them open, they'll come out. And it's in the second story in volume 2.
Who's on the back of this?
That's Marty Webb.
Okay.
There's 1,289 photos in there, and all the hunters that look at the photos, if you took the top 100 sheep out of there and had people vote on them, you probably would have 90% of people saying that ram on the backside there you're talking about, Marty Webb's, is the most spectacular looking ram. And the reason why is I finally figured...
Pretty hard to argue. That thing is magnificent.
Is amazing. This one on this side.
Look at the horns on this one over here.
Is that the one that you're on, like in a glacier?
Yeah, right. That's the swank ram. Now that swank ram is heavy. It's 15.5-inch bases. It also is 48 inches long. The one on the other side is 46. But look how the horns come out. The swank ram comes out at a 45-degree angle on the back. And this ram over here, the Marty Webb's ram, it kicks out further to the side, and it kicks the tips into his cheek, and it also turns a flat part of the horn to your face. So when you're looking at it, it looks huge.
Yeah, it does.
And it's.
What are the bases on this one, Marty's?
It scores. I'm not sure. I think they're over 14. I think it scores 183 and 7/8. So it's 6 inches less. Yeah, turn the next page. Yeah.
Wow.
Look at that ram there.
Oh my
that ram is 13 and 7/8 on the base. It only loses 1/8 of an inch on the first turn, and the second one is the third quarter. Third quarter is 10 and 3/8. It's under 38 inches, and it scores 174. It's 17 years old. It's a gladiator. I mean,
wow.
It's just as neat as
what's that gentleman's name?
His name is
Bill Murray.
Bill Murphy.
Bill Murphy.
Yeah, Bill.
And Bill Murphy got arguably a 17-year-old ram.
Yep, that's what Fish and Game said.
Wow.
It's an old ram.
It's insane how these.
What did Boone and Crockett officially say it was
like
on
a
age?
tree ring?
Boone and Crockett liked it so much that now Bill died within the last year. He had Parkinson's, and so he. But I think 2 years ago they wanted him to bring that ram back for one of their anniversaries, things like that. So they paid to have it and him to come down, and it's one of the showcase pieces in their presentation for that year.
Wow.
It's it would be harder if I had somebody's going to kill me if I didn't come back with a ram like that, or one like say a 180 ram and long horns, or I'd stand a better chance, I think, of taking a 180 ram, or a ram like 180 or something like that, and had long horns than to take one like his.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Hold on a second.
Oh, whoa.
Sorry, guys.
Lucifer.
Yeah, Lucifer.
Jack and I on a sheep hunt saw one like this that had the horn that comes down like that.
Mm-hmm.
And look, it broke off on this side.
Yeah.
It was coming
And
back
we called it
toward his face.
Lucifer. It was coming back to its face, and we
Yeah.
wonder, like, is that going to kill it?
The one we saw was even more at an angle where it was going to go into its jaw.
Yeah, they can.
It was going to for sure.
Okay, I asked.
Look how
I
wide-
call
look
him.
at that. Oh my
that's
goodness.
Brendon Burns.
Yeah, that's a Kiwi guy. But for people that are just listening, I mean, the ram horn pretty much comes straight down
Mm-hmm.
and into its jaw.
Biologists over in Canada
Look
did
at its eye.
a study, and they found that it's genetic abnormality. They say it's in every herd, all 4 North American species, and it seems to be more in the what's it called? White Mountains. They call them stumpies. It can be in both horns. So I asked Brendon if he would send me a picture of this. It's in there in volume 3 of what the cores look like. The cores are probably 2/3 or maybe half as long, so they don't get that curvature going so that the horns curve properly. And so what happens is they start twisting. You can see it right up here. That horn starts twisting like this, and it starts heading back towards the cheek.
Oh, that angle changes.
It does.
It starts pushing it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I wonder how many sheep actually suffer like an agonizing.
Well, if you look in volume 3, there's some in there that come up, and they come right in front of the eye and actually block the vision.
Wow.
There's a guy down in Canada shot it's in a book the guy did for, what's it called? Dream Rams or something like that, I think it was. And he's got a picture of a stone that comes around, and they're kind of bent here, I think, because they're probably short cores, and they come down, and they come like this here, and they come out, and I don't know if they touch or what, like this here in front, and then they go out like it.
Oh my gosh.
It's over 40. It's really neat. And
How does he even walk
He's
straight?
just grumpy all the time.
he was lucky to. And then there's another one a guy shot, and it came out, and it had the abnormality of the horns dropped off up here. They fell off. But they came out and they came right up in here like this here, and I don't see how they couldn't hardly see very good to
Right.
be able to walk and stumble around.
Right. Or
Defend
run from
themselves,
predators.
yeah.
And,
Yeah. So
Wow.
sneak up on those better, easier, I guess.
That's right. Wow, man. And now Brendon Stumpy. What was Brendan's last name again?
Burns.
Burns. I'm just making some notes here, boys.
So what was the story with this one that's on the cover of volume 2?
Yeah, they hunted that sheep for 2 weeks. He was
What range is that out of?
is in Brooks Range. A lot of people don't believe that because including myself back at the time. But there's been other sheep that have been taken out of there, and a lot of people just didn't think that they had the capability. But there's also some over in Canada. They took that picture of that one ram out of Yellowknife up there. It's 100 miles above the Arctic Circle. And it was huge and questionable. I got a picture of it in volume 3 of that ram, and it's probably pushing 50 inches. And it's I got a 46 and a half, and mine's broomed off on one side to 40 and a half. My 46 and a half side is probably the short side on this ram, and mine's got 14-inch bases. And the picture that the guy took of that ram, looks like 15-inch bases.
Wow.
So I'm guessing it could have very easily been could have broke 190. I don't know. You never know.
Where in the book is it?
It's
There's so many pages. You don't know. You don't have the page number memorized, Lou.
Tom. I
thick,
want to give it to me here. Tom Sochek took these pictures. He got it. They called him down, the FBI and different ones. They wanted to know where he got. They thought he got them in the park. And he says, "Listen, I'm just taking pictures." He said, "I didn't shoot anything, and so I don't have to tell you where I was at." But he did come out with a story later. He wrote a story for this book, and I gave him two copies. There's the one I found right there. That
Wow.
scores 183 and a half.
Wow.
It's 15 inches around, 10 inches out. And if it only had 43 and a half inch horns. If it had been in the ground for a couple of years, the skull is. Let's see if I can find.
Is this the picture of the one that was on like sheep hunting Alaska book? The ram you're looking for, and the picture was taken like around 2000 maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
okay.
it's on the front of Tony Russ's book.
Yeah, and where everyone thought it was taken in the park.
Yeah, it
I've
was.
seen that photo.
It was, according to him, and I believe that's true. Here it is. It was over out of Yellowknife. He flew up in there, and he finally found it, and he got pictures of it. But here's some of the pictures of it.
Oh, wow.
It's huge. And it's
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
It's
These
also
are the one. This is the Ram.
See how it's kind of it's getting skinny. It's he's an old man.
Right.
He died that winter.
The one on top we're talking about?
Top right there.
Yeah.
And then is he also the same ram on the left on the top?
Yeah.
Right. Well, that other one's old too, but he's busted off on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are too old. Like their faces get skinny. Is that starting to show their age?
Well, a good example in this next book coming out, Ryan Miller is fantastic photographer, and there's several others, but I'm going to have about 300 photos of just live sheep, and he's got a sequence. Someone found the one ram. It was 46 inches, something like that. Scored like 176 or 175, whatever. He has a sequence in there from 4 years old. He says you start telling if it's going to be a big ram, if he lives. So he goes up and he lives with these sheep
Right.
and spends.
And this is Ryan Miller?
Yeah, I figured he didn't want to say and stuff, and so I kind of got it out of him. I said, well, he's spending 200 days a year, a lot of times when he first started, and probably 150 days, and for the last 15 years. That's over 20,000 hours
Wow.
of time. So he's put in his time, and of course, when you do that, you're going to get some great photos. And he's got the good equipment and all that. But anyway, we got going to have 2 pages, and he got the ram from 4 years old all the way to 13. At 12 years old, he was buff. He was knocking everybody's head off and doing most of the breeding, but he wore himself out. Every year he did. But, the last several years, remember last year we had, or 2 years ago, we had that real late spring.
Yep.
And that sort of thing is terrible on sheep.
Right.
They're just dragging and barely making it through, and then if something like that happens, they die, or a wolf comes along. And what happened, this guy found it, he brought it out and showed it to me. Wolverines were on it. He didn't know if it was at the bottom of a cliff, about a 100-foot cliff, and it was dead, and the wolverines were disassembling it. And so he ran them off, and he's got a picture of one of the, going to be in the book as well, Rampages 4 and 5. Got about 1,200 more pages coming out, and then I'm done. But you got a wolverine headed for the brush with one of the hind quarters, and you can see the ball joints, sticking out.
Oh, man.
Wow.
And the other wolverine's on it, and he got it claws that dug into it, and he's chewing on the rib cage. And so he brought that out, called fishing game. They showed up. He gave the horns to them at the bottom of the hill because he didn't want to get trouble bringing them out. And so that ram, he was hardly moving at all. He was just stayed in one spot. He didn't move from wintering grounds to summering grounds because he's too weak. And he was skinny. See, there he is right there on that big picture right there. That's him.
Oh, that's it?
Yep.
Jerry.
Jerry
Harrod found it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's see how skinny his neck is, and he was
Yeah.
weak, and so he died 2 weeks before the season was over. It was September 15th, right around there. And,
Wow. So he barely.
So I got
made it.
pictures of that guy from Ryan all the way from 4 years old all the way to 13.
That's so cool.
And it was skinny neck, and you can tell they're not going to last long. He
No.
would have never made it through another winter
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no way.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to recover
from before.
from the
But the way
winter
Jerry,
before.
or not Jerry, but the way Ryan talks, even though it would have been interesting if he had survived to the rut, would the hormones kick in and make him go and try anyway? Or did he know that he was
Done.
done?
Yeah, it was
I don't know.
expiring.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back with some trivia and get a little bit more into the details of Rampages.
Big Ray's, the Alaskan outfitter, committed to outfitting Alaskans across the state since 1947. Whether you're a recreator, parent, guide, or corporate buyer, Big Ray's has the gear you need tailored for Alaska's harsh conditions. At Big Ray's, you'll find brands like Carhartt, Grundens, Darn Tough, FXD, Okiwear, and more. Big Ray's is your one-stop shop for both outdoor gear and rugged work attire. Check out their new exclusive line of durable but affordable waders inspired by and named after the majestic Aralak River in remote western Alaska. The Aralak wader was designed by Alaskans and proven for the diverse waters of the last frontier. Visit Big Ray's at any of their 5 locations statewide, 2 in Anchorage, 2 in Fairbanks, 1 in Kodiak, or check them out online at bigrays.com.
Tailored Restoration, helping Alaskans turn disasters into new beginnings since 1972. Their 24-hour services include fire, water, mold, post-emergency cleaning, and repairs. Tailored built its reputation with years of committed and reliable service to the community with innovative restoration and home remodeling. When you have an unexpected home issue at the most improbable time, Tailored has an emergency response number with trained professionals available to help you anytime, day or night. Tailored Restoration has locations to serve you in Anchorage, Eagle River, Matsu, or Fairbanks. Give them a call at 907-344-1239 or make an appointment today at tailoredrestorationalaska.com.
Total Truck, Alaska's premier supplier for custom automotive accessories and overlander products. If you want to customize your vehicle, talk to the team at Total Truck, where you'll find their expertise along with top brands such as ARE, RSI Smart Caps, Goose Gear, iCamper, Frontrunner, Rigid Lights, Rhino Lining bed liners, and everything you need to outfit your truck or SUV. Want to turn your truck into a sleeping option? They have rooftop tents, custom camping equipment, electronics, and solar energy packages to keep you powered up deep in the backcountry. Stop by their store location on Dowling between the new and old Seward Highway, or check them out at TotalTruckAK.com.
There's just some incredible content in those books, man.
Heck
Well,
yeah.
you know, it took me 11 years doing that in the wintertime for 7 months. And at first I was people said you ought to write some books. Well, I was too busy carving. Then I got to think, well, you know, if I'm going to do this, I think I can do it in a year or two. And so I started, and then I ended up, Sarah Palin was governor, and I got put on the board of game, and so I got into the politics and the management. And so I met a lot of people, and everybody like you know 10 people I don't, and everybody else, and it just goes and goes. And like my wife says, it'll never be done. Well,
Right.
I got most of the big players in this one here, but I found some people that bought books since then that are, one guy shot 30-something rams and taking some really nice ones. In fact, he shot that, Jerry Lee's, he shot that really, the biggest ram 2 years ago, or it was last year. And the other one that was with it, I'll show you some pictures. I guess it doesn't matter. The one that was with it was not very long, but man, they're both 12 years old, and that one was broomed off. It's actually probably heavier than the one we looked at here.
Really?
Murphy's ram. Yeah, it's
Wow.
unbelievable.
Wow.
How's your trivia game, Lou?
My trivia game, I'm probably not very good. I wouldn't do very good on, what's that show on TV that,
To be a millionaire?
Jeopardy?
Jeopardy.
Come on, you gotta.
I can
go.
hardly ever
Lou,
answer
you want
those.
to bring the mic a little? There you
Yeah.
go. There you
All right.
go.
Well, we're gonna test not only your
Yeah, I got some book
not
questions.
only your trivia, but Brandon and myself, and we are really bad at it. So you have a good chance here. All right.
I think I might hold the record.
I
got the record, you think?
I put one in there for you, Lou.
Okay.
All right. So this session of trivia is brought to you by the Mayor Salsa.
Small batch salsa, 5 different flavors.
It's bomb.
Coming out here soon on AlaskaWildProject.com.
Hell yeah. It's so good. I had it on taco tonight.
It's hard not to eat the whole jar.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to give Lou a freebie. Lou, you go last on this one, okay?
All right.
All right. Well, so the Rampages, Lou worked on them for 11
What's for me?
years.
Wow, thanks, bro.
When was the first volume printed?
When was the first volume?
The first book.
The volume 1. When was volume 1 printed?
The same year all the other ones were, because they came out as
Hey, no hints. Brandon
they
should
got
know
the
this
set.
because he actually went to the Palmera House thing with you. I had
I
a
don't know that he specified that particular detail, but I'm going to say 2010.
2010. Okay, that's a good guess.
He said about 2 years, and I believe he started in 2008. Don't quote me on that.
I'm going to
but
say
just-
2012.
Well, I started them in 2008, right around there. But I said I thought it would take me 2 years. It took me 7 years, and so
I can carve this thing out in about 40 hours.
2018.
That's right.
2018.
18.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're
I'm
up.
in the lead now.
Yeah, you're in the lead.
But
Yeah.
I would have guessed where you guessed, Brandon, just because they're like infamous, right? So they like carry like almost like a longer life
Well, and before Lew mentioned coming out at the same time, I thought my theory was that they came out one at a time. So I thought, he got the first one done in 2 years,
Right.
and then the second one maybe a couple years later or whatever.
I
But
probably should have done that, but I
just did the full stack.
I just when I wrote the whole thing and it all came out like that, and they were done. And if I was to do the one and wait till it sold before, they wanted me to do that. In fact, the publisher wanted to cut the first one in half, so it would made 6 books. I said, no way. This thing will take 10 years or more to sell them, and then the other volumes are getting outdated as far as some of the stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that.
All right. Okay. So next question. So I was gonna ask I want to have a doll sheep question, but then I was like, okay, we asked a lot before this on our trivia, and then Lew knows a lot, so I was like, oh, what's a basic biology one? That would be really interesting. So you know,
talking mitochondria.
We know about
this
DNA.
one for sure.
we know all about like the polar bear's fur, you know.
we do.
But I was like, what is the coat made up of on a doll sheep? I had no idea, so I looked it up. So the question is, what is the doll sheep's coat made of? Like what?
Fiber?
Is it like one part, multiple parts, and what are those individual parts? I have to kind of ask it in a way that doesn't give out the answer.
Okay. So I'm gonna just like throw something maybe like layman's term type shit. Like a Labrador Retriever has hollow hair, right, to make it float and swim. Mm-hmm. So is that kind of like you talk about a polar bear, right? Very similar, built, genetically to swim, to be part of close to water.
So that would be like a part of a Labrador. Right. So what are all the parts of the sheep coat?
And they're from the mountains. Lew,
I'm going to say the skin. I'm going to say the skin.
Okay.
And then I'm going to say there's got to be some sort of under base layer of really tight knit, almost woolly style fur, and then the hollow hair on the outside.
The sheep have hollow hair and is thicker than a goat. Goat has the under, like a muskox has that, what do they call that, kiviot type stuff. Mm-hmm. A goat has that in there. And my grandson took from Joe Romero all the different hides and stuff, put them on a can, put into hot water in there, and then tested them, see which one would keep it the longest.
Oh,
and,
that's cool.
Muskox was number one,
all right.
which you'd think anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, a lot of the other ones are very close, deer and some, but a ram, a goat's probably a little bit better. They're thicker. They got that kiviot stuff underneath, but
so long hollow hair. And anything else?
I don't think they have any of that other stuff underneath,
all right.
like a goat.
The base layer.
All right.
We'll call it the base layer.
Yeah, and they have a real ram sheep in general are a very thin-skinned animal. Would that be accurate? I feel like when you're skinning them, the skin is so soft. Like
they don't have as thick a skin as a goat. Goats are
or even like a moose
stronger.
Or something. I mean, when you're skinning a sheep, it just kind of like.
Yeah.
I don't really have an answer to the question.
Okay.
It's like way above my head, pay grade, everything grade.
Daniel nailed it. So there is a wool underlayer.
There is.
There's a wool underlayer, and it is wool.
Yeah.
It's a sheep, and then it's long, hollow, 2-inch in the winter fur. So they call them guard hairs. But
and that wool base layer is
guard
really
hairs.
what kind of helps them survive through the winter. Oh,
That's two, buddy.
Oh,
so that was cool.
Do you
that
win?
Cool.
Do you win a Rampages kit for this?
Maybe. Lisa. Okay. Hey, I'm 2 for 2. 2 for 2. I got to get all 3 though. Maybe.
All right. Okay. So the doll sheep, bighorn sheep, desert sheep, they're all wild sheep. How many species of wild sheep are there in the world?
Ooh, this is good.
Kaepernick or whatever they call them. Well, I'd say 28.
28?
28?
Whoa.
Damn, okay, that's good that you went first.
Yeah, no shit.
Man, Man, yeah, because there's a lot when you start going into like if you watch like European sheep hunts and stuff like that.
Well, and there's some that are
Himalayas.
now gone, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, this is like how many are living now.
Existing and living
Yeah, yeah.
now.
Okay, I'm gonna go off.
We're not talking about the dinosaur rams and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, my
Raptor
initial, like just my gut, my blurt instinct was going to be 22.
22. Okay.
I'm gonna say 16.
All right. 200.
Oh,
Yeah.
What?
There's 200. Yeah.
Lou,
Different
you
types
win
of wild.
Rampages.
Yep. There you go.
200 different species of wild.
Wild sheep. Yep.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow,
I'll send you the link after the show.
that's incredible.
How much would it cost to get kill all those and have them mounted?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the new Grand Slam. You
Oh.
can get all 200.
Well, I mean, let's just narrow down to. I mean, you got Alaska.
Can we name a bunch?
Well, let's just talk about Alaska and Canada, Yukon, British Columbia. What do we got there? Like
2,
2, 3,
maybe 3
Does the
bighorns.
Fannin count
Yeah, so
differently?
You got
3.
Bighorn, Stone, and Doll,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
it.
and then North America. You got
Well, they've got
Desert.
some of them probably count different, like the California bighorn, and
they'll
Yeah,
they'll
but
sub
that's
them
a
out.
bighorn.
for 200. That's
Yeah, maybe you'd have to count regionally like that.
Okay, I just think
What about just like well known? Like what are the European ones? I mean, there's
Marco Polo?
when you have the high Altai Argali, the mid Altai, and the low, and then you have the
are ibex considered their own thing?
Is that a
I
goat?
that
think
more of
it's
a
an
goat?
antelope, maybe.
Oh.
You can look it up.
Okay.
Kaepernick or whatever they call them. I'm not sure. I never hunted those. And don't
Did you
plan
ever
on it,
go
so-
international hunting?
No. And here's the reason why. I've been spoiled up here, and the guy just came and bought a set of books 2 or 3 days ago. And he went over, and I have some other friends that have gone over, and they get a 57-inch Marco Polo. And
These things are incredible.
but it's all relative. The same with the doll sheep. If you get a 40-inch sheep, well, it looks pretty nice. But boy, if you get a 46, 48, boy, there's a big difference.
Right.
So if you're going over and you're spending enough, somebody who has a lot of money, and they're not worried about dropping $50,000 or whatever. This guy, he figures got a cheaper hunt, $28,000, and he got a 46-inch sheep. They're telling him, shoot. They don't speak hardly any English. They see some running. He said it's 650 yards, and they were running. They want him to shoot. He said he wasn't going to shoot because he said it's too far.
Yeah.
So
And they're running.
Yeah. And so anyway, I don't want to drop that kind of money and then have to shoot something that on the first day or whatever. I want
feel
to
pressured into it.
I want to have an opportunity to take the biggest thing that can be there, and I want them to work hard for me. You know,
Right.
I don't want to just say, "Well, there's a sheep, shoot it, and you're done."
Right.
You know.
And you want to work hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I don't get a big one, as long as there's some there, but then let's face it, there's places where they'll take you and they know that there's nothing there or very little, and they'll take your money and run you around and you go home. Well, that's the way it is. But and not everybody can get a sheep. If everybody did, pretty soon there wouldn't be any. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, that's one reason why I decided I did a couple assistant guiding things, and the guys got like 37 and a 39-inch ram, and they weren't necessarily happy. The guy who got 39 was happy because he had shot one before. It was 26. And so
Curly cute.
and it had 15-inch bases, but it really petered out, and it was, but he was happy with it.
That's a very respectable sheep.
But the guy that got the 37, him and his son, they got him on the third day, and they weren't happy because they thought they should have something better. And I said, well, if you get transferred somewhere else and you lose a day, and then if you have some bad weather, you lose some. This is a good ram, and not everybody can get a 40-inch ram.
Hang your hat on a harvest,
No
man.
kidding.
Like,
Right. And
Is that? I want to craft this question. The glorification
Yeah.
of sheep hunting. Lou, you come from a unique glory day of finding true trophy massive.
He was spotting them from Fort Rich, man.
Once in a lifetime, yeah. Shit, from where your house is, you're probably gonna spot her. You might.
Yeah, you might spot some right there on Pioneer.
Yeah, you could.
He's like, yeah, that one right there, actually.
Is the glorification and unrealistic expectation of what a trophy is to a hunter, is that why that guy's disappointed in the 37? I mean, I think 90% of us local resident sheep hunters in Alaska would be over the moon with that ram. Number one, just to harvest one and say I got one, and then two, I don't know. We're like today we're not hunting for 40 inches. We're just hunting for something legal.
If you're going out and it's your first one, like I said, I got a 36-inch ram. Is a full curl. I was happy with it. I worked really hard for it. I shot it.
Talk about it a lot, so I'm sure you're still proud of it to this day.
We're in there 19 days, and me and this other guy. And when we first got up there were other camps. Well,
19 days on the hunt?
Yeah. So I go with the philosophy, if someone's already there, I'm not going to go in on top of them.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so we took and we went all the way back to the left side of Eagle Glacier and hit that big hogback, kind of like a dinosaur hogback, went up on the top of that and got up there, and I could really see the other side really well. On the other side, just on the drainage up from Heritage Falls, which goes up into Polar Bear, there's a big bowl up in there. There was a tent down at the bottom. So we weren't finding anything where we were at, and so we just kind of watched, and the tent came down, and they headed down the mountain. So we boogied down the mountain, and they heard all this shooting going on. It was a bunch of military guys. They didn't know what they were doing. There was 14 rams up in that valley, and they didn't go after them for whatever reason. And so we talked to them down the bottom, and what they were doing is they're shooting their ammunition off. They had pistols and rifles, and they're shooting the ammunition so they didn't have to pack it out. I mean, a lot of these guys are, they're young and they're stupid and just having fun or whatever. I don't know, how you describe people like that. I grew up in the logging woods, and I didn't waste stuff, So anyway, they were done, and I was happy because when they were done. So we took off and we went right up in there where they were at. And when we got up there was 14 rams up in that bowl. And so they split off, and two of the bigger ones took off. And, well, I'm not sure if they're bigger, and I don't even remember now, but they were legal. They split off and went up in the rocks like this. So I took off, went around, and started up after them. And I got within 75 yards of both of them, but only one at a time would come out and show himself. And I was greedy. I know which one was the biggest. I wanted to shoot the biggest one. And so I didn't shoot either one of them, and they got away from me. I could hit them with the baseball if I had it. Well, maybe. It was that close. And I played baseball in college as a catcher, and I could throw the ball really.
Rip that thing to second base. Yeah.
So anyway, in fact, if I thought about it since and talk about fair chase and all that, I believe I could have killed one with a spear back then. Now, it may not have been a very big one, but I think I could have.
You could have got close enough to actually.
Yeah, you have to work a lot harder at it. In fact, I figured out, and a lot of guys have asked me, how much harder is it to hunt? They come in the house and look at my rams and stuff, and they say, well, how much harder is it to hunt with a bow? Because some of them are bow hunters. And I said, well, I've always said, well, it's 10 times as hard. So it's an easy way to figure it out. The average bow hunter, back in statistics in my chapter, are 2.5% successful. The average rifle hunter is 38% successful. So you divide one into the other, and it's 14.4. So that's probably pretty close. Yeah. But anyway, what was the question before we were talking about?
You were telling the story of the 36-incher.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we go up there, and I head up after these sheep, and once they go on up, it's 6,450 feet or something like that to the top of the mountain. Then it goes on back around to Polar Bear, and on the back side there's this big, humongous glacier. And you can see it from the visitor center. If you go back there at the visitor center and look up there, and you'll see this glacier. It goes like this here, and it's huge. And so anyway, I follow them up, and on the back side there, it's the north side, it gets icy because the sun doesn't shine there. And you heard the place where the sun don't shine. Well,
that's it.
Yeah. That's the spot. That's where the rams are.
And it was getting. I was getting a little worried about it's slick. Yeah. And it was dangerous. And so I couldn't get over the last part. They went right up over the top, probably another 20 feet, and I couldn't get over that. And because, a young guy out there like that sometimes will do stuff and get himself into trouble. But I'd figured out I can't do this. But I leaned out. I was able to get over here and I lean out, and I could see where that ridge went out like that. And there one of them was feeding and the other one was laying down. And so I wasn't really thinking. I shot the one. If I had stayed there, how would I have got him? I'd had to figure out some way. I would have eventually probably been able to do it. But he just fell out in the air, hit the glacier, and he slid down and he hung up several hundred feet down below on a rock outcrop in the middle of the glacier. So anyway, and I heard some shooting while I was going up after that ramp. So I went back to my buddy that was down there, and he didn't like the hard rock. And he said, I flock shot. He said, I saw them all bunched up, and he said, I shot in the middle, see if I could get one of them. And
duck style.
That's called flock shots?
And so anyway, so now then we head down the mountain. And I learned something else on that hunt. After I shot him, it looked much shorter going down here. But when I got down with about last 100 feet, I couldn't get off the mountain. So I had to go all the way up. If I'd had it on my back, it would have even been worse. Now I had to go all the way back up and retrace the way I'd come up.
Yeah.
So that's one expensive, good lesson to learn is always go the way that you know, unless you know you can get down the other way.
Yep.
Oh, we learned that one time.
Yeah.
The hard way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Going back up the way we should.
That's cliffed out.
Hard is a good teacher.
Yeah.
So we walked around. It took 2 days. I went down, went around,
shit.
came back up the other direction. But the good thing about it was he had hung up on those rocks. His guts had been spilled out.
Oh, perfect.
And it was cold. And so he was perfectly fine.
He's already skinned for you?
Well, not quite skinned, but it was dangerous, and I really probably shouldn't have done it. But you're driven to finish.
Yeah.
And so I had a Gerber steel, and it was flat like a chisel almost. And so I chopped me some footholds going out there. But if I had fallen, I mean, I would have been dead.
Yeah.
I'd have went down like a slide and right out into midair. And so anyway, I got out there. Talking, get my sore throat here, or
Get
dry
that
throat.
Ricola in there.
So anyway, the guy down below, he was, another thing he wasn't doing is he wasn't taking care of his feet. He didn't take his boots off when he crossed the stream. He'd walk them wet, and he had blisters on top of blisters, and he was hurting. So he couldn't go up there and help me. So I got up there
You didn't
and
walk them dry, Lou?
no, I've walked boots dry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you have.
But he didn't.
Well, he's a flock shooter. He don't want to walk.
Yeah, man, come on.
So I got up there, and I took half of it at a time. And so what I did was I didn't want the weight on my back, so I ended up just putting a parachute cord on the pack. I got over there, and I pulled it, and it hung up on a rock. And I remember I threw a rock at it, and I dented the top of the frame. But eventually I got it loose, and it swung around. And I got it, so I took that down. So I went back up and got the second load. When I went back for the second load, one of the quarters was gone, front shoulder. So I figured it was either a golden eagle or a wolverine. And I didn't see a bird, so I'm assuming it was a wolverine.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, when I got back down that night, 2 days of really hard work on my part. I remember I shook myself. I mean, really just violently shook myself to sleep in the sleeping bag that night.
Oh, you mean cold and
Well, I was
exhausted?
exhausted.
Yeah.
Fatigue, I call it fatigue sickness. And, I mean, I was wore out and probably hadn't drank enough water and everything.
Sure.
And so I was...
Ate about 20 Snickers bars?
Nah, I didn't have that many. Hypothermia type deal.
Yeah, right.
So...
What rifle and cartridge were you using from the majority of your hunts?
Well, for the first 30 rams that I shot, I used a 300 Weatherby, and what I did was I studied ballistics and stuff, and I wanted all I had was a 30-30, and my dad had given that to me.
That's what my dad gave me.
Model
Good
94.
old lever action?
Yeah, lever
that's the
action.
best.
Iron sights?
My dad, I've seen him shoot with that rifle. Shot 3 bucks. I was with him, and he asked me if I wanted to shoot, and I could hardly see him. At 300 yards, he killed all 3 deer with that open sight rifle.
At 300 yards?
300 yards.
30-30.
Yep.
Wow.
He grew up in Arkansas back in the time when you didn't waste ammunition, and you'd shoot squirrels, wait for them to line up and kill two at once, and so he was really a good shot.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like it.
and so he got to where his eyes were not very good in close, but he could still see out there, and he wanted to hunt with
So
a better
he would
rifle.
back up a little bit?
Huh?
He'd have to back up a little bit.
What he did was he went to a 30-06 and he put a scope on it, and he says that's cheating. And
Wait, it's way too close now.
yeah. But so when I got up here, I figured a flat shooting rifle was a 300 Weatherby, and so I had him go down and buy one for me there in Oregon, and he went down and bought the 300 Weatherby. It was made in Germany. It had the wooden stock, pretty and all that, and 300 and two boxes of ammo. Put a sling on it and put a 3-9 Redfield scope on it. So he sent it up to me, and the ammunition was just 300. He didn't know that it had to have Weatherby ammunition. He thought
Specifically, yeah.
So anyway, I thought, well, if I ever shoot a moose or if I run into a brown bear, 300 should take care of all of it, and it did. But I was on a hunt for moose down on the peninsula one time out of a boat, and we went over after a moose, and the guys that were with me wanted to shoot it. It was about a 52-inch moose. And so I said, it ran in the brush, and we had to get back to the boat because the storm was coming. So I said, okay, I'll go over and run the moose out. So I dropped off the thing. I carried it in a case. And when I got down at the bottom, there's a stream down there, and there's two brown bears sleeping. And one was about an 8.5-foot brown bear, and the other was about 9 foot. The 8.5 went down the stream. The 9-footer got over there, set, and was looking at me. And while he's doing that, I'm getting the rifle out and put one in because I don't have one in the chamber when I'm around other people. I don't like them having anything.
Yep.
So anyway, the bear came, and so I shot him, and it's on 9 power. And I didn't change it. So I shot the bear. He went down.
Just a blob of brown.
And he went down, and while he was down, I shot him again. As soon as I shot him, I didn't have a third cartridge in there, so he jumped up, and here he's coming at me. I pulled one off the stock, and I put it in. It's like slow motion. It's like when I wrecked my airplane one time, my son said, everything blacks out here. It's your adrenaline. Closes off, and all you see is just right in front of you what you're going to be fighting. And
I've experienced that.
So anyway, the bear's coming. I dropped that cartridge. I reached down to pick it up. It's like in slow motion, but this is all happening fast.
Oh yeah. It's a scramble.
And so I realized I'm not going to be able to do that. So I pull one off the stock, put it in, and he's closer than you are. He's about 6 feet away. As I close the bolt, and I just fire from right here. And I didn't even have time to aim. And I know I hit him in the right shoulder because he dropped the right shoulder when I shot, and otherwise he'd have ran over me, and he went right to my left. That caused him to go to my left.
Oh, he veered over.
Mm-hmm. And then he just kept on going out. All I saw is his big butt going through the brush. And the guys up top, whenever I fired the first shot, that moose came out, and they're all set up on a tripod, and they shot the moose. And then they came down there and said, what's the shooting
hell
about?
are you shooting about?
Why'd you shoot a second time?
So they said, and I came down there. He said it looked like Jurassic Park because the bear was hitting stuff and it was all moving and everything. And
oh wow!
They said my voice was a little high, so I don't know. Maybe it was. But honest, when I went back to the boat that night, when I laid down in the bunk, it was about a 90-foot boat, and when Skiff took us back, and when I first of all we had to get all the meat out, but when I got on the boat, I closed my eyes in that bunk. That bear was on my eyelids. I could see him.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
And got my attention. And so from that, I studied ballistics, and because of Weatherby, 300 Weatherby still shoots pretty good, but it's a 180 grain bullet. It's going really fast. And I talked to a blacksmith, not a blacksmith. What do you call him?
Gunsmith.
Yeah.
And he said, well, that 180 grain nozzler coming out that fast at 3,400 feet per second, coming out at a close distance like that, really doesn't hold together like it should.
It doesn't have a
penetrate.
chance. Doesn't have a chance to expand, right?
Yeah, and so I was looking at getting a 338, 378. So I still reach out there, and one of my friends that lives outside, he's got all kinds of weapons, and He said, you're not going to be happy with that. He said, it'll knock your shoulder off. It'll cost you $150 a box unless you reload yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even burn all the powder. And so I ended up getting a 340 Weatherby that's actually 2 pounds lighter than my old Weatherby. Has a fluted barrel, come from HS Precision, and it has stainless steel barrel and Teflon coated. And so it's got a 26-inch barrel with a break on the end. And so it's
long.
Pretty long.
Yeah.
But boy, I tell you what, that thing is accurate, and it will shoot real good long distance. I shot 500-600 yards. I don't typically try to do that. But down at Kodiak shooting, I don't take a small rifle in Kodiak. Now, my son will shoot the 308 or something like that, but I call it the lumber bust.
Oh, yeah.
That 338. It's a 340 Weatherby, but it's a 338 is what it is. And with that
is that a 338 shortened down?
No.
Is that what it is?
No, it's regular Weatherby cartridge. They're long, and it carries a lot of powder. And so it had...
Okay.
I think the other 300 Weatherby with 180 grain had like... the 340 ended up with about 1,500 pounds of knockdown power more. So there's
were
more
you shooting like a 210 grain or something?
Well,
like
I shoot
that?
210, but I changed to a Barnes X. And also,
So
you
like
can
a
shoot
195
you can shoot
then?
250
Oh, wow.
grain. If you're in the bottom, you know.
Okay.
I usually use 210.
Yeah.
And I had to shoot a bear again after that. It was about getting close to 10 foot, and it stacked it right up and rolled
A Kodiak Brownie?
Yeah, somewhere.
Okay. Good answer, Lou.
Yeah. Wow, great stories, man. Thank you.
I know, man. That was
That was amazing. I want you to walk us through your process of writing and collecting all these photos and pictures for the first three, and what your process is now after probably learned a lot on the first three,
right?
Doing 4 and 5.
I had about 20 guys read the books after I, had written them and stuff like that, and some of them were pretty smart guys. One guy was kind of like a professor, and he found like 375 mistakes. Once you make a mistake, you're typically going to do it over and over and over again, like TO or TOO or different things. And so, I was a little bit wordy. I tend to go run-on sentences and stuff like that, and maybe don't have the commas in the semicolons in the right place, and so.
And real quick, Lou, are you writing these down like physically, or were you speaking and then someone else was
not
writing?
very good on a computer when I first started, so I longhand wrote this stuff out. Now I do have typing skills, because in high school we went through a typing class, and so I probably get to where I can type 60 words a minute.
Just old typewriter.
Oh no! Well, I used to have the old typewriter, and I tell you, there's a world of difference between the old typewriters and tape and stuff like that, and what your paper you turned into a professor. And now they even correct a lot of stuff, although it's not foolproof, because it doesn't know the way you're saying things is not, and it will try to correct stuff, and it's not. It'll highlight it, and it's not wrong.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I've gotten a lot better at that. Got better at spelling. But it'll spell most stuff that's misspelled. Yeah. It'll call it to your attention,
Yeah.
So
autocorrect.
I don't write stuff out longhand anymore. I've gotten really good at being able to sit at the thing and think. And I used to think that I couldn't think, and with a computer, and I had to write it out longhand. But then it's twice as hard,
Yeah.
Now I can type it out, and you can change stuff. You can move it around. And,
you don't have to erase it or write with a pen and then scratch it out and then go to the next.
Exactly. So it's a lot faster. If I was redoing them, it took me 7 years, I probably could go back and do it in
40 hours.
But it's still a
process. I'm
yeah,
sure
it is. To begin with, it started out my stories. Then I got on, the board of game. And meeting different people, and one person leads to another, and
so it's not all your stories, correct?
Oh, it's not.
It's other hunter stories, other hunters' hunts.
The first volume is about 23 of my stories that I put in there, and then the middle section, there's two guys that one good friend was a twin, and his brother died in an avalanche when they were hunting on Bernard Glacier, which is that glacier there where the
on the back here.
Yeah. And Paul Klauser took them in, and they landed in that way up at the head of that, and they were coming out about the second drainage out. They're going up after a big ram, and they're about 30 feet apart. And Mike, who's still alive, stumbled, and he heard his brother say, "Run!" And he time he looked up, they were getting covered up with ice and boulders.
Oh,
so,
terrible.
And he luckily was in a pocket in there. His pack was mashed and stuff like that, but he didn't get hurt. So saw daylight and stuff, and it took him about 30 minutes. He ended up was able to get out, and now he's screaming for his brother. As they were real close. They both were about 230 pounds. They played football in college. They're big, strong kids. And so finally he realized he's going to have to walk out. It's about 17 miles out, and along those glaciers and crossing streams and all that out front, which is a pretty tough go. So he left stuff in there in case his brother got out.
Oh, supplies, some sort of...
Yeah, it's placed a sleeping bag and tent and some food. So he hiked out, got a hold of Paul Klauser, happened to catch him at a cabin. They flew back up there. They ended up getting a search rescue thing, but more of the mountain started caving off, and you couldn't land there. You couldn't land on the main glacier because it was too rough, Bernard Glacier. And Paul went up. They finally called it off. And in the spring of the next year, Paul went up and he landed. There's a picture in there in the middle of the book there, volume 1, I think it is. Yeah. Here, I'll try to get it for you if you want. And they looked, and there was nothing. I mean, you think there might be a rifle or a pack or frame or something like that, but it had all washed out, and either it was gone. And so, I turned right to it.
Wow,
that's kind of interesting. Here's Mike and his mother, who is blind, and there's his brother, Marty. They summited Mount McKinley with his blind mother.
Oh, wow.
Here she is on a ledge that's only like 6 inches wide. She lost one of her poles, and Mike had to go down and retrieve it. And there's 3 of them. And look at their packs, pre-Barney packs. I mean, they're tough kids. And, she's blind. She just goes up there with them, trusting them.
Wow.
They summited Mount McKinley. There they are going up. There's 4 Acre in the background. This is Windy Corner. There's a log house that he built. There's Mike sitting on top of the spar pole there. And
wow. How long do you think it'll take you to complete 4 and 5?
Well, I've got about 1,200 pages done now. I'm just waiting for some other stuff to come in. There's a 10.5-foot brown bear that they got.
My goodness.
A couple of rams that they got. They wanted a Boone and Crockett ram, and they would have gotten it if they had lived,
Yeah.
But I was going to show you a picture. Oh, Paul Klauser. It's back here. There's where they landed. Here's where they got covered up with the avalanche. There's the stuff that broke off right here and covered them up. You can see how big some of the stuff's bigger than a car. That's actually the next year. So, I mean, there's stuff breaking off all the time. This glacier let's see, it doesn't show it there. You see this glacier coming down here, and right down there's where they got covered up.
Oh.
There's where Paul landed. His plane is right there.
Wow.
There's the plane looking out. You can just barely see it right here. There's Paul. It's 5 miles down to where it doesn't look like it in that country because depth perception is so massive, right? So he's a mile away from his plane. There his plane is. He landed on that glacier. You could take 100 pilots out of Anchorage here that have Super Cubs, take them up there, and see how many would land there.
Yeah.
Mike had to get out and while he kept the engine going and put spikes and stuff in there to tether it so it wouldn't slide.
Right.
So when they finished, went down there and couldn't find anything, he had to go back up. He got in the plane, revved it up, and everything. Mike jumped in, and they go up, and you turn around, and it's a one-way, in and out.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Paul's writing me a chapter. I've got about 6 guys. Paul's one of them. He's probably the best pilot in small bush planes in the state. He's got a chapter on bush flying. And I got 6 friends that are writing on that. And so I'm going to have a real big chapter on the history of taxidermy. And so Joe Romero being that. And then probably the most interesting one, Paul has given me close to 1,000 photos, and I've got probably 150 from Ryan that are just knock your socks off photos. And so I'm going to have about 300 photos, live photos of the sheep and other animals that you see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sheep hunting.
That's awesome.
How many copies have you sold of the first 3?
Just about 800. And I probably should, a lot of people say I probably should go into, I've had probably 100 people send me stuff, and I don't know how many are wanting to redo my website. And one guy it was going to cost me about $2,000 a month. I said,
What?
I can't afford that. I may as well give the books to you and let you have them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's the publisher?
The publisher is,
Will the same publisher publish the next?
I think so. My wife says you haven't even figured that out yet.
I'm sure they will.
It's Friesen Press out of Canada.
Okay.
But I think they have an area they've gone into. I think Montana. They one of the gals that helped me at Friesen Press in Victoria. Mm-hmm. That's where they put them together. But they are actually printed in Altoona, Canada, which is 50 miles across the border in Montana. Between about 50 miles into, so it was a big deal. I thought I was just going to write the books and it all happened, but they wanted $50,000 to ship the books to Alaska to me.
50,000?
How many copies was the first order?
2,000.
Okay. Wow.
How many pallets is that?
2,000 of these? That's a lot.
Yeah.
800 of them.
I probably should have only got 1,000, but I got some guy said, "Oh, you'll sell 5,000." Another guy who writes sheep hunting books said, you'll have no problem selling 1,000. Well, it's probably partly my fault because I got a lot of guys that are buying them and they're expensive.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize, and once they figure it out or see somebody else's, they have no problem with it. I don't want to mention anyone else's names, but books. There are some really good other sheep hunting books out there, but there's 660 pages in the first volume, 630 pages in the second volume, and 550 in the third. If you take some of the other books that people are putting out with sheep hunting, and they're usually not just on one species, like this is just for doll sheep.
Right.
250 pages.
For the whole book.
Yeah, for the book, and they're $150.
Right.
So if mine is 5 or 6 times as big, times 150, I have to charge about $1,000.
Right.
And my wife about fell over when I did as well. I didn't know what it was going to cost. I wanted it to be a collector's edition, so it's got good paper in it. It's they're all quality pictures. There's 1,289 photos, over 1,800 and something pages. And that slipcase cost me $25,000 just to get the slipcase for 2,000 sets. And here's the deal. If I bought 1,000, that's where I got the first break.
Yep.
If I bought 2,000, I got quite a big break. 3,000 more. And so then I had to play, how many am I going to sell? I don't know. In the long run. So I thought, well, it was a big break on the second 1,000, so I ended up buying 2,000. If they're marketed better, maybe I would have already sold them all. But I tried to get the place down in Canada and to try to get Wild Sheep Foundation I told them, I said, I'm not at this point. I'm over thinking I'm going to get rich or make any money. I just want to break even, and I need. Excuse me. It cost me $234,000 to have 2,000 sets published.
Wow.
Then it cost me $6,000 to bring them down from Canada down to my daughter's in Salt Lake. And they can only be stacked 5 high because if you get any more weight, they're 23.5 pounds as it is, then it splits the cover,
right.
the case there. So they brought them down there, and then I put them in a 250, I think they're 10 wide by 15 feet long. And put all of them in there, half on one side and half on the other. And they wanted $159 for each unit per month. Okay. So then I decided that I want some books in Alaska. And so I ended up renting a U-Haul. And that same year, to get them out of there, And I emptied up. I could only haul 500 sets in each 26-foot U-Haul.
Right.
So I hauled two. The first one, it cost me about $4,500 to bring them up. Next one, a little bit more. And so I went down this last summer because what they were doing is they knew I was out of state, and they were raising my rent in there about every month, and it was cost me $318 for one unit.
Whoa.
And so I had my daughter go down there and take them out and put them in her name, and change it over to her name, and it reverted back to like 160.
Yeah,
But then every 2 or 3 months they started raising it back up again.
Oh my gosh!
And so I said, enough of that. So I went down, bought a ticket, went down, and went over to the same place where I had rented these before, filled all the paperwork, and they wanted $8,000 for it to rent the vehicle, and I said, well, the last one I rented was $1,700.
Yeah.
And she said, well, inflation.
Oh, my goodness.
So I said, I'm going to have to rethink this. So I went home, and my son-in-law had a place that he stores stuff in, so we rearranged his deal, and I got them stored in the back of his place there. And
So real quick, guys, I just was kind of doing some math while you were talking there. What I'm gathering, and this doesn't include the rent,
right,
to produce the books, $250,000.
I got about $280,000 tied up in it. At the time I paid the rent down there for all these years.
Yeah, I didn't have the rent included.
And going down, and I need to go down and get those out of their hair to begin. I couldn't go down earlier because of the doggone COVID. I didn't get a COVID shot.
Right.
I didn't believe in that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they relaxed that so I could go down. But then $8,000. I said, gee whiz,
No kidding.
Sure.
So where can people buy them now?
Well, you can't order them off my website. You can get all the information there and everything, but people usually call me. And what I'm selling, most of them is word of mouth. So other people see them, and a lot of people said, "Well, I didn't realize there's so much there." 350 sounds like a lot, and it is for books.
Yeah, there's kind of a sticker shock thing with that when you see that initially.
But it's not a regular size book.
No.
I mean,
now
this
you
is more like a
physically
big, beautiful coffee table book times 3.
Yeah, it's like 3 dictionaries, damn near. I mean,
It is
the size of it. Yeah.
They wanted me to break it up into 6 books, and so I left it like this, and they are too big, really. I had one guy who bought the set, and he said, he come back and said, man, I really like the books, and he said, I'm reading them every night in bed. He says, the only problem, my arm gets tired.
Massive, yeah.
I got this big giant left arm.
It's like I'm trying to haul this thing up on a sheep punt, and it's like,
Hey, you talk about that. I had a gal, she's 46 or 47. She lives in Oregon, where I grew up, but she is over in eastern Oregon. There's 3 mountains over there called the Three Sisters. They're volcanic. And so she bought the books just before Christmas in 22. And about 3 months later, she emails me, and she says, man, I really like your books. And she said, here's a picture. She had hauled them up to the top of one of the 3 sisters and took a picture of the other 2 sisters in the background. And I said, man, I don't know anybody that's read the whole, I do know a few people that's read the whole books, all 3 of them, but never had anybody haul them up on top of a mountain and take a picture. So I said, do you mind if I use that in my next book? Yeah, no problem, she said. So she's real quiet. And she says, by the way, I bought a sheep hunt. She's never hunted anything. She didn't grow up where the parents were gone, but they didn't hunt. She didn't know anybody to go hunting with. So she bought a sheep hunt from a guy down one of these shows. And so Joe Romero knows the guy, it's Mahoney. And so anyway, so I told her, I said, well, when you're up here, she knew somebody in Wasilla, some friends, and so Mont Mahoney, I think, lives somewhere there close. But then the place where she's going to be hunting.
So she bought a hunt in Alaska.
Yeah, right. So anyway, she bought the hunt, and I hated to tell her that sheep population is really down.
Right.
And I'm not sure how if you're gonna get one. I didn't say nothing. I didn't want to discourage her.
Right.
Because she already bought it. So I said, if you get one, or if you have time, you're welcome to stop by the house. So she calls me up a couple days after the season started. She said, I got one first day. And she said, can I come over? Sure. So she comes over, and she real quiet, and have to get everything out of her, And I said, well, are you going to write a story for me? Well, no. She says, it really wasn't that hard. So we get to talking about different things, and she says she summited Mount McKinley in 2016 or 17.
Wow.
And which kind of opened my eyes up. And then she's run Mount marathons 10 times. She's done that. And she, I never even knew the place existed, but they call it the, it goes from Canada to Mexico, and it's called some kind of a trail. It's 2,650 miles long.
Yeah.
Something or other coast trail. And it goes through the mountains there.
The Pacific Coast Trail?
Yeah, that's it. And she walked it or hiked it in 158 days, averaging 17 miles a day, and with a friend. And so, holy cow!
Yeah.
I said, there's a story here. She's not a what you call an Olympic athlete. She's just driven.
Yeah.
And and so she said, I kind of think of myself as a modern day explorer. I like doing different things. So she rides a unicycle, and I got a picture of her riding the unicycle down in Colorado down Pikes Peak Trail.
Yeah.
It's mountainous,
Yeah.
And I said, holy cow, this gal is pretty interesting. And so she's done other things, other races and whatnot. And she also hauled a watermelon. She's standing on top of the mountain, and here's this big watermelon with the two sisters in the background.
That's cool.
Anyway, I got to have that part, a story in there about her.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, her one-day sheep hunt.
That's
great.
Well, she said, I'm a woman, and she said they thought they flew me up on the mountain. We landed, and there was 14 sheep. And we had 5 days before the season opened, so we just had to, lay around and just wait. She said, I also bought a 6.5 Creedmoor and took a shooting school. And she said, I could hit a golf ball at 100 yards. And she said, so we just, on opening day, we just walk over there, and I shoot the biggest one. And, they take care of it, and the plane lands, and all that. And she said it was really... I thought it was going to be more.
I thought she was going to be in for a Mount Marathon or take a watermelon up a mountain type.
Right.
Or an unguided sheep.
Yeah, right.
So I thought it was kind of interesting the way she did things and prepared.
Sure.
A lot of old guys
she
come
was
up
ready
here
for
and they're overweight and they aren't ready for a hunt, and she was. So it's kind of neat.
What's that paper you brought there? You got a bunch
Well,
of facts
I didn't know if anybody would ask questions, but
Got some stats on there?
There's so much in these books that I could read them and learn something again, because you can't retain it all.
Yeah, for sure.
The statistics chapter, I spent probably 3 months. From daylight to after dark. My wife says, the dogs and I are suffering because of this book, because you're not paying attention to us.
Right.
But
coming to bed late.
It's statistics from 1978 to be till 23, or if I can get 23 in there. And then it shows the averages, and then, one thing a lot of people think that there's more hunters today. Well, 2022, there was 1,856 hunters. That's residents and non-residents. And the high was 3,645 back in 1991. So there's more hunters back then. There's less hunters. A lot of people have given up. And there's even less non-resident hunters. But there are still more of them. They're still more successful. So we're taking fewer sheep. So their percentage is fairly high. Compared to. Well, that's what the statistics are.
I'm curious what the statistic is on a non-resident hunt price.
Oh, price
in '91 versus 2022.
Okay, I can give you a good idea.
Sure,
when I first started writing these books, 2008, probably 10.5 was a. I don't think there would be too many. Would be a whole lot more than that. Mm. And here we are.
24.
24 years later. I know one guy that got 40,000 last year in the Brooks range, and I understand he's going to 42.5 this year.
Wow! So
there's people that will pay that, and there's no limit. There is limit in some areas. 65% of the land is federal land, and they have concessions on those, so they have to come up with a certain. You can only take so many. On the other areas, there's too many guides in there, and they're competing against each other, and there's no restriction. You can take.
Yeah. Like what's happened in 19.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question there, but
you did.
No, you did. I mean, because I was just wondering, when
the same things
in
happening.
2008, if it was 10.5, in 1991, was it 3,500? And then,
I don't know what it was. Well, I do kind of. In the books, I have a deal. I know my next door neighbor, Earl Payne, he quit guiding in '88, but he was guiding the last year he guided. He got 3 Boone and Crockett Rams, and he was guiding up in the Taslina area and that country.
Is that Wrangles?
No, it's a Chugach.
Chugach.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's,
On that
it's
side.
13D.
It's
It's between here and
Okay.
Glen Allen.
Okay, yeah.
But he would drop off a non-resident a resident hunter for $100, and I think that a guy could come up here and hunt 21 days with him, and get a sheep. You might not get them all, but they got a lot of the stuff. They get a sheep, caribou, moose, maybe a bear. Get maybe 4 or 5 animals, whatever they could hunt in that length of time. But then if you're after a sheep, a lot of times those are probably a 10-day thing. If you're after sheep just only, I think most of the time it was 10 days to 2 weeks. But he had 21-day hunts. And so sometimes the guys would come in and go for all those different things.
Right.
Okay.
And he was pretty successful at getting stuff, but he was an old school guy. He didn't fly you out and spot nothing. He told his guys, get your ass out there and hunt. Because the sheep are there.
Yeah.
And he's not going to say, well, the really big one is way over here.
Right.
You go out there and hunt, and you come back with what you can. Which that's fair chase.
That's the best. Yeah. Well,
When those are really expensive hunts, like the 48,000, do you think that the client's being sold on like a particular sheep in an area?
Well, I think it wasn't 48,000. I think 40,000. So that's probably the top. I think I know that gal paid like 25.
Right.
I think 25 is probably going to be pretty close to the bottom now.
Oh, I bet.
And so the average is going to probably be 30 or more. And when people are still coming, even though the population is down.
Are they feeling the pinch? Like the opportunities starting to decrease? So it's like, I'll pay 40 for a sheep. I'll pay 30 for a moose. I'll pay 50 for a brown bear. Like I want these trophies. I'm going to pay this money. Like I
guess if people have the money, and
there's always enough money.
And so if your size is down and that's what you're taking, I can't say that. The one reason why I don't want to hunt internationally is who am I? You're going to take me? I don't have millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. So they're probably going to expect me to just shoot something the first thing that we see that's legal, and I wouldn't like that. They want to get me in there and get me out.
Yep.
I think some of that happens here, but on the other hand, it isn't necessarily all the guide that does that. I think more so up here, it's the client. You have a lot of people who are big-time guys that have their phones and they got their business and they got to get back to that, so they want to come up here. Not all of them, but they want to have the sheep spotted, know where it's at. When I come into camp, they want you to have him on the next day, and when it's time legal to shoot, they want to be able to pull the trigger. They want to be coming out, and they want to go home.
Yeah, back to business.
So they're not getting the experience,
why even go?
Well, we're getting long in the tooth here. I had 2 questions.
Yep.
Are you guys good? I want to. There might be kind of almost rapid fire, not speeding you up on your answers, but there's 2 things I wanted to ask you. Number 1, hardest sheep hunt ever. What year? What ram? Description.
Well, I might have to. Somebody asked me out there at the ale house. I look back and a lot of them are tough because I didn't have very good gear. Where the sheep ended up, I was with my wife. I'm packing out 2 rams. I'm packing out a lot, and they're getting hung up in the alders. We went straight through the alders before I really figured them out. 16 hours to go through 3 miles of alders, and I've got 2 rams on my back, and they're getting caught up in stuff, and I'm on the ground. She's pulling the alders out.
That's
hard. That was a hard hunt.
The horns, cape, and meat.
I had about 150 pounds, And
16 hours through 3 miles of alders.
Right.
I'd say that qualifies, Lou. It's maybe the hardest hunt ever.
That was hard, but I was, and then the other one, I've already told you that.
L5 might have something to say about those.
Oh, I'm sure it did. My knees. Well, I'll tell you another one. The church I went to, they gave me a hard time about going by myself. They were worried about me.
Yeah.
So there's a young kid in there from high school. He wanted to go sheep hunting. And so he took a 30-30 from his dad, and he was wiry, and I thought, okay, he's a sophomore. And he probably weighed about 140 pounds, maybe 150 maybe. And so we go up Ice Cicll, and it was snowing, and we climb up into the snow. I show him a ram about 150 yards away, 100 yards away. It's underneath the rock sleeping, and I said, shoot it. And it was a nice ram. It was 38 inches. So he empties the rifle. I have to back up because it looks like, you ever seen the rifleman, the guy that used to shoot that thing, boom, 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 boom. He never even touched so I killed and he was out of ammunition. The ram about to get away, so I shot it. And so we're going down the hill in the snow. I just quartered it out. Didn't take the head out because it doesn't want to get out of the snow. We go down to the rock, and it's not snowing down there. And there's a 38-inch ram, because he ended up shooting it, came down up the head of the glacier, came down almost down to the moraine there. And I said, here's my rifle. I'm taking care of this stuff here, boning it out and skinning the head out. So I thought I'd just give him my rifle and let him go up after it, and it'd take some time. So he gets up there, and he gets underneath the curve of the mountain. The ram is coming on down, and it doesn't see him, and he comes up like this here, and he comes out with about 150 yards from it. He shoots it and breaks its back on the third shot, and it falls down right there almost at his feet. So I just dropped what I was doing and grabbed my pack and headed, and a knife and stuff like that I needed, and I headed up and I picked up his coat on the way up. He had a red jacket. I picked up his pack, and when I finally got up there, it took him an hour and a half to get up there, and I got there in about 30 minutes. And it was getting late. It was 10:30 at night, and so I quartered it out, took the cape off and cut it off here at the head, and it was midnight. And so you just barely see ahead of you, and we started out along the edge of the moraine. It came up like this, and it lipped out like that. So you could walk down here pretty good. So I got down far enough where I thought we could drop over and go down. But it was that hard pack stuff, you just can't dig into.
Right.
I started sliding down the mountain, and I could see sparks flying from the rocks. And so I hollered back to him. I said, go ahead, go above that rock. Well, it's too late. He's sliding down the mountain. He slid past me, and we hung up about 50 feet apart, lost his glasses. And so anyway, we stayed there the rest of the night. I didn't have a flashlight back in those days. I should have had one.
Yeah.
Didn't have one. So it's too dangerous to...
You're not supposed to be out that late.
Yeah, right. So we did exercises and stuff on the mountain. I've done that about 4 times over all the times that I've been out doing that. And luckily, it was always a starlit night, and it wasn't raining or extra cold.
Yeah.
So anyway, we... next morning, about 4 o'clock, you could see well enough. Went down to the rock, and I didn't even take time to peel his head out. I just finished boning him, threw all the stuff in. That was Sunday. I needed to be out to school on Monday.
Sure.
So we head down the hill. I think he had about 85 pounds, or maybe something like that. I had all the scope and all the other stuff, and probably about 120 pounds. And then he couldn't handle it all. We got down about 200 or 300 yards down the stream there before you start heading up into the alders. He couldn't handle it. So I took his head, which I should have taken the time to peel it out. I didn't. So it weighed about 35 pounds. I put it on my pack, and we headed on down. So
now you're 160?
Well, I end up with 153 pounds, not counting my rifle. If you count my rifle, it would have been over.
Just put 163.
160. So we get
300 Weatherby ain't light.
We get down to the last drainage where you can get water, and a lot of times there's snow and stuff in there. I saw a set of horns down that I couldn't pass up there.
Oh, come on, Lou. I can haul 175.
He was 13 years old, and 13 and a half, but 14 really. And so I made him pack out one horn, and I threw the skull, tied the skull on mine, and I packed the other horn in my other hand.
Just smelling it all the way down?
Well, no, it was a couple years old.
Oh, okay,
it was totally
yeah.
clean. It was a really nice ram. It's on that beam at the far end.
Okay.
No, it's not. I put it on one of the packs up top. It's only 33 inches, but it's broomed off really big. It was a nice ram.
Nice.
And old. Anything that's really old, gets 12 years old is a trophy.
So you got 2 of the hardest hunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more, just quick. You've been over 50 sheep hunts, I think, right?
Yeah.
You ever been rescued? Close call. Have you ever had one of those situations?
Well, my wife has a saying that God takes care of fools and idiots, and I qualify in both cases. And I have fallen. That 300 Weatherby, one in the 70s, probably around 1975. I couldn't even near do that now today. I took off from the visitor center, and I walked up the mountain, and I was at the rock in 5 hours. And
flew up there.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was tired. I mean, but when I got, and I didn't even look up on, really. I just headed down to the stream to get some water. And when I got down the stream, I was looking up as I was filling up my canteen. I had my Army canteens. I look up there, and here's 3 big rams, and they're all over 40. So, boy, I had to tear up to the rock, get my rifle out, and they had already took off up, and they were along. I missed them. And so I just, that was the end of that day, I think. So the next morning, I just took off, thought I'd find them up there. And on the way up there, it was snowing, and on the way up, I'm hunting in late September. I used to like to hunt that way because the big rams are kind of coming down. Everybody else is done.
Yeah, I like that late hunt.
I like the longer coats. So anyway, I don't like the snow necessarily, but sometimes you have to put up with that. So I get up there, it's snowing, and I run into this heavy 38-inch ram. I got to be out the next day. So I shoot it. I didn't
make a decision.
So I shot it. It slid down the mountain, probably a quarter mile. I mean, just because of that snow. And it slid out of the snow, and it landed just on the edge where you about a 200-foot drop off right into the alders. So I got down there and I tied it up to some alders, and so I was skinning it out, and I was throwing there's a little ledge down here like this. So I was taking the quarters, and wasn't boning it, taking time to bone it out because I need to get out of there. And so I was throwing these over to this ledge, and one of the front quarters bounced over 200 feet down into the alders. So I got the rest of it in my pack, and I was afraid I was going to slip because there was still snow where I was at, even though it wasn't snowing at the time. So I had 3 shells in my back pocket, and I have it in a case, and so I'm thinking about ready to slip, and I'm going down the hill forward. And so I got my butt real close to the ground. And about that time, I think I'm going to slip. My feet went out from under me.
Oh,
I dropped the rifle. I jumped, and I caught on that last ledge just before you go over, and I grabbed a hold of some little alders. And so I didn't go over. And my rifle came down, and it was broken. It busted at the stock, where it's weak. And so that's the Weatherby before I got one of the newer stocks. It had the walnut. So it's broken right there. It just broke it right in half. It comes down, it like a scarf around my neck. Otherwise, it could have bounced over as well. So I was pretty well spent, and so I think I did that. If I look back, I think I did that all in one day. I went up there in 5 hours, and then I went up there and shot that sheep. And I came down there, and it's getting about towards dark, and I had to do stuff fast. And that might have been another reason why I slipped, but it was slick.
Yeah, kind of cutting corners or just
maybe.
in a hurry. Yeah.
And so I at this point I don't care if I get the sheep out of there or not. I just want to get out alive,
Yeah.
So I slipped, I fell, I grabbed that thing. So there's a little ledge where I could work my way down. I got down to where actually I didn't have my pack. I threw it over with the meat in it. And so I got down there, I put the pack on, put the quarters in there, and I took off down for the rock. And so I never retrieved that. I was going to come back up and retrieve that. I was just going to leave it, that one that bounced over the mountain. But the next day, after a good night's rest, you feel
rejuvenated.
Yeah.
So then I go back up and get it. But
you want to finish.
That was right. There's very few sheep hunts that doesn't have some aspects in it where
Gets a little sketchy.
Yeah, it gets a little hairball.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you had any.
One other
all those
time-
hunts, you know.
A friend of mine came up here, and we climbed the top of the mountain, 7,500 feet over here, went along the edge, and the ram that he was after, it was real hot. And that ram had gone down and was laying on a glacier, down, some ice, what a glacier, well, this snow that's still left over. And he had a 30-40 Krieg. It was a terrible rifle. And so he shoots that thing, and he wounds it, and the sheep is running down underneath us here like this. And so I take off, and it's that really hard rock. It's more like you find down in Yellowstone Park. And it's slick, and there's no shale and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Man, I lost my footing. I started sliding down the thing. I'm laying on my pack, and I'm digging my heels in, and I'm bouncing. And I finally my heels dug in, and boom, I stopped. If I'd have bounced about another two times, I think I would have went over. So that was another time it was real close. And but it happens fast, and so we get down there, shoots the ram, and we spent the night up on the mountain on that one again. So, and then that wasn't over. So that's his ram. It's 39 inches, and so then we spent the night on the mountain, got water out of a snowpack, and then the next morning I said, "Well, you go ahead and bone it out, and I'm going to take the cape I caped it out of. So I'm going to take it down to the rock because I spotted another really good ram across the valley up." And so it's probably the longest shot that I ever made. Lucky shot. So anyway, I go down and I eat a hamburger. I carried some hamburger meat in there. I made up a hamburger and I ate it while he's up there doing that. He comes down and I got a couple hours sleep. And he so then I take off and I go up after that ram. So I get up there and the ram, I couldn't see him. Once I got up in the mountain there, I'm shooting at an angle about like this. The mountain, I mean, it comes down almost like this, right down to the glacier. I know that he was 1,500 feet up by the map over here, this perpendicular here, 1,500 feet up. And I'm shooting, but I can't see him. So I fire a couple shots up in there. He doesn't come out. So I said, well, that's it. So I turn around, and I start walking back towards a rock, and I just glanced back over my shoulder, and he walked out on a point. So there's a big rock right there, so I just pulled the Weatherby out. I'm shooting at a fairly stiff angle, so I'm guessing it was close to a half mile. And of course, it's that steep of an angle, and I'm aiming over him. The third shot and nothing happened. On the third shot, I don't know how much I was aiming over. Probably a body or two body lengths over the top of him.
Just lobbing.
Yeah, I was. I was hoping. And it's probably something you shouldn't do, but, I mean, you really shouldn't.
In hindsight.
But I hadn't killed that many, and it was really nice. It was a heavy ram. It was 39, but it was heavy. And so I ended up, his was 39 and a half, mine's 39. That ram fell off. Well, I wasn't sure if I hit him or not, but he looked funny. And all of a sudden, he just jumped out in the air just fell out in the air, and he hit 5 times. Boom, boom, boom. And the reason why I know it's 5 times, I didn't necessarily count them, but Larry, my friend back there at the thing,
he had a good view.
He was looking at it through the spotting scope. He said he hit 5 times. When I got over there, he was split from his here down, guts were laying out. His esophagus, about a foot of his esophagus was out there, and that white sputum-like stuff was on the esophagus. His heart was laying out. All I had was one of those little Instamatic cameras with the cubes that you turn like that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's late at night, and the pictures didn't turn out.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it was dramatic, and a lot of people wouldn't have liked the looks of it anyway. But I salvaged most of the meat. I mean, you could pick his hide up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the cape was no good, and the bottom part of the horn here on the left-hand side, it broke out a piece about this thick and about that long, and didn't break it all the way off, but close.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Dang.
So that was not there.
Yeah.
Some are a little tougher than others.
Some compelling stories.
I mean,
man.
I think we could sit here for about 8 hours.
Oh yeah,
least.
no. I mean, I had
going.
those 2 questions. I was like, man, I got to squeeze these in.
This is the first volume with Lew.
exactly.
Volume 1.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have you in like 4 more times.
Yeah. Well, Lew, thank you for coming in and chatting with us and taking the time to share your experiences and your history and your knowledge and all the time and money that you spent on these books so that people could check it out. Oh, that looks great.
That's a full. The one that I did the 5 on was a full set of horns.
Oh,
is that a carving?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
we'll have
beautiful.
to have you share that with us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Lew, thank you for coming in and spending the
my
time.
pleasure.
We appreciate it. Any last comments, guys?
I just want to thank you for your time, Lew. I know that a lot of people reach out to you, probably calls, emails, random pop-ins to the house, and you invite people out to the house. We're incredibly honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
You know, we're all sheep hunters. You know, we probably got into it a little later than we would have liked, given what the glory days were. But it's really fun to listen to those good old days, and you can almost, the way you tell stories. Number one, you're a great storyteller. You can envision yourself in the situation, almost like a fly on the wall, witnessing these stories. And thank you for your time. Thank you for the work that you've done and the time you've put into this. And I know that it's all for the passion and love of sheep. And thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
The website?
Yeah, the website's Rampages 123, and you can't purchase them off of there, but the information is on there, and my phone number and or my email, and people are, you know, they can save $30. Is when I first started out, it was $21 or something to ship these, and I've been charged $30 because it takes me quite a while to open them up and sign them and put them back in.
Yeah,
and then drive them down to the post office and everything. Now then, it's like almost 30. It's almost $29 to send them. But you know, add that added on top, and of course, you know, like poor guys in Canada, I sent one to USSR, and it was $201, and they got there real fast. One thing they asked me is there anything in here against the government? You know. Then I just sent one to Austria, and it was $162, and then they pay $62 tax. You know, like
import tax.
Yeah, import. If you ever go socialistic and look at Canada, you know, our dollar's like $1.30 compared to theirs. So if they pay $3.50 for these things, time they end up, and then they have to pay $33 when they go pick them up. They get like $600 tied up in them. You know, so a lot of guys, you know, draw the line, or some of them have a place across the border that they
send it to.
Send the mule over.
Call that the plug.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Alaska. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Lew, for sharing your time. Rampages 123. If you want to check out the information, get a hold of Lew.
4 and 5 will come out probably Christmas of next year. It's supposed to come out this Christmas, but I just couldn't get it done.
Okay. All right. We'll be looking forward to that. Jackie?
Stay wild, Alaska.
You remember my speaking to you of what I call your overcautiousness. Are you not overcautious when you assume that you cannot do what the enemy is constantly doing?
The Alaska Wild Project podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Barney's Sports Chalet, supplying hunters with the best hand-selected gear since 1963. The exclusive home of frontier gear built for the rugged Alaskan terrain. Your one-stop shop for all your outdoor needs. Visit Barney's today at 906 West Northern Lights.
Big Rays, the Alaskan outfitter, committed to outfitting Alaskans across the state since 1947. Whether you're a recreator, parent, guide, or corporate buyer, Big Rays has the gear you need, tailored for Alaska's harsh conditions. Check out their new exclusive line of Auralic waders. Big Rays for all your outdoor gear and rugged work attire. BigRays.com.
Tailored Restoration 24-hour emergency home services, helping Alaskans restore their dreams since 1972. Services include fire, water, mold, post-emergency cleaning, repair, and remodeling. Give them a call in Anchorage, Eagle River, Matsu, or Fairbanks. Hit them up at tailoredrestorationalaska.com.
Total Truck and Alaska Overlander, Alaska's premier supplier for custom automotive accessories and overlanding products. providing all-inclusive rental vehicles and trailers custom outfitted to explore the Alaskan backcountry with a unique and convenient traveling experience.
TheTreehouseAK.com, located at 341 Boniface Parkway, Alaska's own and grown cannabis and CBD store. Ask the bud tender what the strain of the day is to get your 10% off. The Treehouse, where the culture lives. AKO Farms, located in Sitka, Alaska, built from the ground up with concentrates as their single motivation, with exclusive products such as their sugar wax, full spectrum diamond sauce carts, and more. Ask your local bud tender about AKO.
Marijuana has intoxicating effects and may be habit-forming and addictive. Marijuana impairs concentration, coordination, and judgment. Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence. There are health risks associated with consumption of marijuana. For the use of only by adults 21 and older. Keep out of the reach of children, and marijuana should not be used by women who are pregnant or breastfeeding.
Lawn Pro AK, Alaska's year-round professional property maintenance team. Services include weekly lawn care, custom landscaping, fertilizing, weed control, turf repair, and more. Schedule your free estimate at lawnproak.com.
Alaska's OG cider company, Double Shovel, crafting gluten-free colonial-style ciders founded as a healthier, non-inflammatory brew option. Drop by their Pop and Tap room in Anchorage off of 58th and Arctic or visit the second location in Kodiak. Double Shovel, award-winning ciders.
Alaska Mining and Diving Supply, located in Anchorage, is our go-to for powder sleds and utility rigs. Whether you're in the mountains with the flat bill bros, running trap lines, or hauling freight, they have the selection to get you dialed from peaks to the valleys. Find them on Commercial Drive or akmining.com.
Equal in prowess and act upon the claim? I say try. If we never try, we shall never succeed. This proposition is a simple truth, and it's too important to be lost sight of for a moment. If we cannot beat the enemy where he now is, we never can. It is all easy if our troops march as well as the enemy, and it is unmanly to say they cannot do it.